Good evening, everyone. I declare the council meeting open at 6 p.m. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting today is being held on Wajak Noongar Budja, and I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I thank all past and present members of the community that have supported the city to better understand and value Noongar culture within the city of Wanneroo. I invite you to bow your heads in prayer. Lord, we thank you for blessing our city, our community and our council. Guide us all in our decision-making to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity, wisdom and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all, and guide all of the city's people and many families to a prosperous future that all may share. We ask this in your name. Amen. Please note that the audio-visual proceedings of tonight's meeting will be live broadcast online with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. The broadcast of the proceedings of the meeting can be accessed live and on demand through the City of Wanneroo YouTube channel. Attendances are as per the record. The only person not here at the moment is Jackie Huntley, but I think she's in the building. She's just not at her desk at the moment, so she will be coming shortly. Apologies and leave of absence, we have none. We have a new request for a leave of absence, councillors. The following request for leave of absence is for Councillor Bedworth. His request is for a leave of absence from the 29th of May 24 to the 8th of June 24 inclusive. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Moved Councillor Moore, seconded Councillor Berry. Do I have any speakers against? If there are no speakers against, councillors, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. So we now go to public question time. The following general rules apply to public question and statement time. Public questions and statements should only relate to the business of the local government and should not be a personal statement or opinion. Only questions relating to matters affecting the local government will be considered at a council meeting, and only questions that relate to the purpose of the meeting will be considered at a special council meeting. Questions may be taken on notice and responded to after the meeting. Questions may not be directed at specific council members or a city employee. Questions are not to be framed in such a way as to reflect adversely on a particular council member or a city employee. First priority will be given to persons who are asking questions relating to items on the current council meeting agenda, and second priority will be given to public statements. Only public statements regarding items on the council agenda under consideration will be heard. Each person seeking to ask questions or make a statement may address the council for a maximum of 3 minutes each. So I will read the questions in writing that we've received first, and we received these prior to the meeting. So PQO 1424 from the Wanneroo Residents and Ratepayers Association. Question, venue hire for community members. In relation to venue hire for community members, how does the city determine what is a small, medium and large group? How does the city verify the organisation's eligibility to access the discounted hire? The response from the Acting Director of Community in Place says, administration does not assess facility booking requests based on the size of the group. Therefore, there is no process in place for determining this. In relation to how the city determines eligibility for discounted hire rates, organisations need to apply for a concession of fees and will be considered where the application meets the categories and criteria for concessionary rates as set out in the city's facility hire and use policy. PQ 0204/24, Mr D Griffiths, and his question is about the Carramar Golf Course. Is there any truth in the rumour that is circulating that Carramar Golf Course is earmarked for development in the future or when the current lease expires? The response by the Director of Corporate Strategy and Performance states, Upgrades to Carramar and Marangaroo Golf Course have been planned to occur under the operation, that is the management and maintenance contract with Belgravia Leisure, which was approved by Council in mid-22. This occurred at the Ordinary Council meeting in August 22, and the item is CSO 58/22, and the Special Council meeting in September 22, which was SCSO 1-09/22. The scope of upgrades to both courses are currently being developed to a final stage by the City and Belgravia, with a driving range improvements anticipated for Carramar Golf Course. The upgrade will be a step in the implementation of the City's Golf Courses Strategic Plan 2019 to 2034, which had been approved by Council in October 2019, and that item is CSO 3-10/19. Question PQ0304/24 from Mr P. Titharaj. The question is, as a local resident residing in Lansdale with my family for some 26 years and now retired, this is about the construction of the DORDAC KeyPap Library and Youth Innovation Hub Lansdale, by the way. This matter has been before the City of Wanneroo for almost 5 years, and I realise the budget set aside for this project back then would have been minimal compared to today's estimate. Why has it taken this much needed amenity for Lansdale to have come to a final decision on the go-ahead, or worse still, the demise of this much needed facility? We have 7 primary and high schools in our area bounded by Hepburn Avenue and Dundebar Road, and a high percentage of senior students who would love to make use of the original proposal. The response by the Director of Assets states, in relation to DORDAC KeyPap and the time taken to reach the current stage of construction tender, in May 2019, the City endorsed locating the proposed new library at 15 the Broadview, Lansdale, that is the current site, and an architect was appointed to complete the design of the library. In October 2020, the City received a state grant for inclusion of a youth innovation hub to be co-located with the proposed new library at the site. As a result, a redesign was required to incorporate the addition of the new hub. In March 2020, COVID-19 began to impact on construction project delivery in Western Australia as a whole, primarily resulting in material shortages and building contractor availability, leading to substantial increases in the costs of construction projects. As a result, City administration and the architect reviewed the designs of the new facility, implementing various changes to its layout, scope and material selection. Several concept plans were prepared for consideration over a 12 to 15-month period before the concept plan could be finalised and endorsed in November 2022. Since November 2022, the project progressed with the completion of the detailed design before tendering for its construction in November 2023. Question PQ0404/24 from Mrs. Newton. The question is related to ASO2. Does Council still take the purpose-built Driver Reviver caravan out on public holiday weekends? Why was there no blessing of the roads and first responders this year if Council has a Roadwise committee? The response from the Director of Assets. Administration advises that the Driver Reviver caravan is still in use and was taken out on the following long weekends, that is Labor Day, the 4th of March 2024, and Easter Monday on the 1st of April 2024. It is scheduled to be deployed on Monday the 3rd of June 2024. Administration advises that the blessing of the road was put on hold during the COVID in 2023. The City held a first responders morning tea in its place. The City is proposing to discuss the blessing of the roads at the next Roadside Advisory Group meeting and explore an option to hosting the next blessing of the roads / first responders morning tea over the course of the year. The second question from Councillor Newton relates, former Councillor Newton, relates to CSO 704/24. Why would council look at funding so many attendees at the NGA when it occurs every year? Surely an elected member should not be funded in their first year and nor repeat attendance for those already attended, with the exception of the Mayor. The response by the Director of Corporate Strategy and Performance. In accordance with section 6.3 of the Council Member Continuing Professional Development Policy, the request for council attendance has been referred to council for consideration at its meeting to be held Tuesday the 23rd of April 2024, which is tonight. Council is yet to make a determination on this attendance and any associated funding requirements. And question 3 from Mrs Newton relates to CRO 10424. Why is the proposed change to the CAT local law going behind closed doors? This item debated in public previously and referred back due to elected members' misunderstanding the powers given to rangers under the current Act. It is listed as confidential due to legal advice. Surely it can be debated and decided without referring to that advice or going behind closed doors if an elected member wants to raise it. It is not a good look for an open and accountable council. The response by our Executive Manager of Governance and Legal. The report to Council tonight on an amendment to the City of Wanneroo Local CAT Law 2023 is to respond to a request from the Joint Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation JSCDL, who has advised the City that this letter or any of its content is not to be publicly disclosed, including in the minutes of the Council meeting. A CAT Amendment Local Law 2024 will be presented for consideration to the 21st of May 24 Ordinary Council meeting in an open forum. Our question number PQ05-04/24 from Mrs J Matanovic. The question relates to AS 04-0424, construction of the Dordak Keepak Library and Youth Innovation Hub, Lansdale. Her question is, Girraween is such an old suburb and looks its age now. I would like to know what the council hopes at some time or some stage to do at the Girraween hub. It's an area that should be the hub to bring back the community together. It's tired and old and needs a definite revamp to bring back old families and also new families. The response by Acting Director Community in Place. In February 2020, Council supported an investigation into the potential redevelopment of the Girraween Hub, and a consultant was appointed to prepare a master plan for the Girraween Hub precinct. This included looking at the future of the Girraween Hub and adjacent senior citizens centre and library facilities. Council considered the recommendations from this work at its meeting in August 2023 and resolved to undertake community consultation on the preferred concept plan. The outcome of this work is intended to be presented to Council for consideration in the coming months. Question PQ06-0424 from Mrs N Houlihan. New information has come to my attention about the dangers of boughs falling from the variety of tree I have on my verge. I have 3 of these trees, so the associated dangers and difficulties are threefold. Before voting on whether to have my trees removed, I believe you should be aware of some important information. The smooth-barked apple eucalypt that I have on my property is an introduced species and is nicknamed the Widowmaker tree because it is known to randomly drop branches causing death and damage. I believe the City of Gosnells decided to remove all these trees in their local area for this very reason. I've also been made aware of a situation where this variety of tree has been removed from a street in Darsh quite recently, again, perhaps for the same reason. It concerns me greatly that the report presented this evening identifies the risk of these trees as medium. This level of risk does not instil me with confidence. Furthermore, I don't imagine that these trees would give a notice period before dropping a bough. It's highly unlikely that this would be a sudden occurrence without warning or opportunity to prepare. I think I read that wrong. It's highly likely that this would be a sudden occurrence without warning or opportunity to prepare. My question is, if a bough was to fall and cause damage to my residence, to a car parked beneath, or worst of all, to, for example, a toddler walking by unaware of the danger as the branch falls from overhead, what happens then? Who is liable? More importantly, knowing that this danger exists, is it not better to prevent it? If this situation can possibly be prevented, rather than managing the ongoing issues of having these trees in a local area, it should most certainly be prevented. Please vote to have the trees removed. So I have a statement, PQ0704/24 from Mrs Kay Woodhouse, who is the principal of Lansdale Primary. And it's a statement about Dordak Keepak. Dordak Keepak, the new library and youth innovation hub, is fantastic. Connected community initiative that will enable interconnected links between the local community and the students and staff at Lansdale Primary School. As a large school, we will be able to utilise the many different meeting room spaces, function rooms and resources available to support and improve the educational experiences of all students at Lansdale Primary School. This will certainly build our local community and provide many wonderful opportunities for the future. Karen Woodhouse, Principal, Lansdale Primary School. We have a statement from Mr N Oakley from BR Guest Holdings. The question is PQ08/424 and it's related to CS05/424, Old Yanchep Surf Club Site Agreement for Lease. As I am presently away from Western Australia on business travel, I'm not able to personally attend the meeting this evening. Please accept my apologies. I would like to confirm to Council our strong commitment to, support for and excitement about the rejuvenation of the old Yanchep Surf Club site. Whilst the process has taken longer on account of matters outside both of our control and that of Council, the parties have at all times maintained a positive level of professional engagement on the project. We realise that it is important for this site to be developed with the big picture of the Lagoon Master Plan in mind. As a well-established local Western Australian business, we have been able to operate in alignment with Council on this project, including the several rounds of community advertising and also positive sessions with the Yanchep Lagoon Community Working Group. We look forward to the final execution of contract documentation in order that we might now push forward positively into executing the getting things done on the ground phase. I would like to thank the City's councillors and officers for their professional conduct in working with us on this project. From Mr R Chong, question number PQ09/424. The question is, are we able to have the big council tree removed because of the following issues? Affected our health acre, causing severe hay fever due to the pollen. Gutter drains are blocked by all the fallen leaves that were blown to our property, causing many crows to build their nests on the tree, with their poo affecting the paint of our cars and also causing our driveway to be very dirty. We're always worried that one day, because of the strong wind or thunderstorm we have here, this big tree might fall, causing more damage to residents, cars and properties. And the response by the Director of Assets states, street trees in the city are managed in accordance with the city's street tree policy, and the requests from residents for the removal of street trees are considered on their merits by the city on the following criteria: safety, health and condition of the trees, reasons highlighted by the residents, value of the tree in streetscape and landscape, potential for significant nuisance or damage to property, and history of requests and associated actions in the street. The reasons stated by the resident are not considered grounds for the removal of the tree in accordance with the policy. However, administration will contact the resident and organise an inspection of the tree to address their concerns and determine any required works. So that's the end of all the questions we've received in writing. Apparently, Nerellan Houlihan wants to ask a question and make a statement tonight on AS05. Would you like to come to the podium and give us your name and suburb and make your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors, and thank you for this opportunity to speak again this evening. My statement was actually just read by yourself with the questions, so I guess I don't have anything further to add, apart from, the questions, and I'm not sure of the process here and whether I get to hear how that is addressed or what happens next.
So what happens if that statement and questions was complete and you have no further statement and questions, what will happen is we will go to the item on the agenda and we will make the decision and discuss that item, debate that item at that time. Okay?
Okay. And is it permissible for myself and my neighbours to wait for that to take place?
Yes, you can stay as long as you want. You can even stay to the end of the meeting if you choose to.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay, so the next question on ASO 5 and statement is from Elaine Fong. Elaine, would you like to come and make your statement and ask your question at the podium and give us the suburb that you live in? Thank you. Just push the button in front of you and then it'll come on red, and then that's, could someone help her? Oh, you've got it.
Got
Elaine.
it?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Good evening. Sorry, I actually wrote the wrong, it should be PQ0904/24. I'm speaking on behalf of R. Chong. It's actually the same issue as PQ040424. So we are actually living just across the street. So we're actually having the same problem with the big trees. So that's why we are here and we are raising the concerns that we have. So just to see if you guys can actually consider and work out something for the residents in the area. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further public questions from attendees at tonight's meeting? At the back, would you like to come to the podium and ask your question?
Sorry, Mayor, can I ask a question to that statement?
Do you want to ask it at councillor question time, maybe better, or at the item?
I actually would like the resident just to answer my question that I have.
Okay, if it's a clarification, that's fine. It's Ms Fong, is it that you want to ask the question of, or Ms Houlihan?
The lady that just spoke now.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, you said that the trees is also a problem for you. Is it the same 3 trees around the property of the lady, or is it different trees?
Same tree. Yes.
Same trees, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to now take the stadium, give us your name and podium, same thing, and name and the suburb you live in, sir.
My name is Mitchell and I live in Wanneroo. My question tonight is twofold and it's in regards to the right-of-way gym that is open on Calabrese Avenue. Unfortunately, since the gym is open, there has been an increased incidence of antisocial behaviour from gym goers, as well as consistent noise pollution, as well as noise complaints from residents. It has been noted that these complaints have been brought up to the council multiple times. However, it appears on the outside that nothing has resulted from these complaints or concerns from local residents. So my question is probably twofold, as I said before, which is one, is there a list of actions that have been taken by the council in regards to these complaints? And two, with the approval process of the original gym, I know a major proponent and issue with it is the parking. When in the approval process was the limited bays approved?
Thank you. And Mitchell, what's your surname?
Is Oldershaw.
Oldershaw?
Correct.
Okay. And Mr Dixon, would you be able to respond to those questions?
I can certainly respond to the question in relation to the parking and the approval of the parking. So as part of the development application, an assessment was undertaken in terms of the number of parking bays. The requirement in accordance with our planning scheme is for 29 bays for this type of development with the amount of floor space. Those bays were provided as part of the development application within the site itself. So it accords with our district planning scheme. In relation to the actions that have been undertaken by administration with issues raised, I think there's both the city's Assets Directorate and Community in Place with our rangers have dealt with a number of complaints, and through you, Mayor, I may ask the respective directors to provide responses in terms of the actions we've taken.
Thank you. I also understand Mr Bowring has a response to this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The conditions of development approval included a reference that the application comply with the noise report that was submitted as part of the application. I can liaise with the Manager of Health as to find out whether or not there's been complaints and what the outcome of those complaints have been.
Thank you. So we will follow through with that, and we'll take your details at the end, and administration will get back to you with those responses as well, okay?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Oh, Mr Singh wants to comment as well. So, Director Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Based on the issues which have been brought to the attention of the city, we have looked at the parking provisions in Calabrese Avenue. So we did prepare a plan for parking provisions to be installed in that particular street. They have been approved. We are waiting for contractors to install those signs on the western side of Calabrese Avenue. They should be going in next week or so.
Thank you. Any other directors would like to make a comment on this item? No more. Are there any other questions from the gallery this evening? If there are no more questions from the gallery, we go to item 4, confirmation of minutes. That is the OC 01-03/24 minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on the 19th of March 2024, and the SCR 01-03/24 minutes of the Special Council meeting held on the 18th of March 2024. Do I have a mover and seconder for the minutes? Moved Deputy Mayor Rowe, seconded Councillor Huntley. Do I have any speakers against this? If there are no speakers against this item, could you please cast your vote, councillors? And that was passed unanimously. So item 5, announcements by the Mayor without discussion. Well, councillors, tonight is a special night. It's a sad night, but we're looking forward to congratulating and farewelling Natasha Smart, Mrs Smart. So this is the last council meeting for our manager, council and corporate support, Natasha Smart. Natasha commenced at the city in November 2015 and was the first person in the newly created position. When she came to see a council meeting prior to starting the role, we were having constant problems with our microphones, and she has certainly improved that situation with a new system of microphones being implemented. There have been many improvements that Natasha has instigated during her time as manager, from building the team and processes, as well as ensuring the city is ahead of the various sector changes, such as live streaming our meetings. Natasha's knowledge and fastidious processes has been invaluable, and we have all come to rely on her outstanding ability. Of note was Natasha's excellent process for our special council meetings held during COVID-19, as well as generally adapting council processes to continue during that difficult time. This also led to making forms available on the website for people to register attendance at meetings, submit public questions and deputations, and we continue to use these forms today. Natasha also greatly improved our election support with the WA Electoral Commission, making us an exemplar local government. She also undertook the last major ward review and managed the subsequent changes that were required. There are numerous continual improvements that have been made during Natasha's time that have also reduced our costs and improved the quality of our documents. She will be missed by us as we have become so used to her efficient, knowledgeable and caring approach. We thank her for her outstanding work and wish her well for her new role in state government. And we have something for Natasha from council. This is from council. And I must say, it took a bit of manoeuvring to hide it from Natasha and put it in the meeting, but I'm really glad we did. Okay, item 6, questions from council members. Do we have any questions? Yes, Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had one question in regards to the Calabrese Avenue, in regards to future actions. Just in regards to the proposed parking prohibitions, has administration in their operational budget funded a community consultation for a full parking ban on Calabrese Avenue?
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The initiatives like that one or the issues like that one form part of routine operating budgets. So depending upon when the request comes in or matter we are investigating, we undertake community engagement as part of existing staff resources.
Thank you. Do you have another question, Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one other question in regards to the actual approval of the right-of-way, Jim. Is there any conditions other than the noise report that was approved with that, Jim?
Mr Bowring.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, there's a number of conditions that were applied to the gym as normal. In this case, the applicant proposed a 90-person capacity and a corresponding amount of car parking of 23 bays, which is compliant with the standards under District Planning Scheme number 2. So the amount of parking that was provided on that site was consistent with the proposal and met the scheme requirements at the time.
Thank you, Mr Bowring. Any other questions, councillors? Deputy Mayor Rowe, and then we'll go.
Thank you, Mayor. A question really just to indicate that once we reach the report stage of the agenda, I seek leave to make a procedural motion to change the agenda to allow the item for the tree removal petition to be brought forward as we have full residents in the chamber.
Not a problem. And Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question that will probably be taken on notice, just in reference to something that Mrs Houlihan said in her statement. Could we get some information about what Gosnells has done in relation to their trees? I think that would be helpful for us, just as contextual information. Is that enough of a specific question?
Yes, and I think Mr Chettleberg has the answer.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor, I contacted my counterpart at the City of Gosnells today, excuse me, and he confirmed that the Angophoras are still part of their planting list and are still managed in situ within the City of Gosnells and not removed.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Herridge.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a quick one while we're at it to ask if Mr Chettleberg can just clarify about the street tree that was removed in Darch in the same statement, if that's possible.
Mr Chettleberg.
Through you, Mayor, administration doesn't have any records of an Angophora that has been removed in Darch in our records. We're unsure of what that or where the location of that one is referring to.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just got a query about the lady made a mention that the tree was a widowmaker. I do believe that the widowmaker is actually a lemon-scented gum from Queensland, but this is not that. Can somebody confirm that, please?
Mr Singh. Oh, Mr Chettleberg or Mr Singh?
Through you, Mayor, eucalyptus species in general have been given the tag widowmaker over a number of years rather than just referring to the Angophora species.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just following on what Councillor Herridge was asking, the area in Darch in question is in fact Monaghan Park, where the tree was removed from. Does that assist you identifying which species it was removed?
Mr Chettleberg.
Through you, Mayor, I'll have to take that question on notice. I'm not aware of the actual species of the tree in Monaghan Park.
Do we have any other questions? Councillor Nguyen.
I was going to wait until this item come on board, but given we're talking about the 3 trees, can I ask the questions while we're on this topic? Can you estimate what the value of the tree is at the moment? If we were to sort of remove it, how much would that cost the tree in terms of?
I think maybe if we're going to be talking about the trees, what we'll do is we'll move into the agenda proper.
Okay.
After we've done the petitions, and then we will, as Deputy Mayor Rowe has suggested, we will bring that item forward to the beginning of the agenda. So let's go through that and then we will follow through with the further questions. So we'll go to item 7, petitions. We have new petitions received. We have a petition about the closure of public access way Flanders Place, Alexander Heights, which is to be presented by Councillor Seif.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so I have a petition here by the residents of Alexander Heights. There are 24 signatures in regards to the closure of the pedestrian access way at Flanders. Attached to it is a letter explaining how some dysfunctional or antisocial behaviour has affected people who live in close proximity to the access way, and I certainly hope that they're all right. They are receiving some psychological assistance, but there has been dysfunctional behaviour in that access way in 21, 23, 2024, 2024 again, and 2024 again. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also have a petition from Councillor Figg about illegal off-roading activities in Two Rocks. It says Toe Rocks in my agenda, but I think it's Two Rocks.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd hazard to guess that is correct. So I have this petition here from residents up in Two Rocks regarding four-wheel drive access to off-road areas and the illegal access that they are partaking in. So I'll just read it out in the formal text. We, the undersigned, do formally request Council's consideration to put in measures to stop four-wheel drive vehicles having access in Two Rocks to undertake illegal off-roading activities in places such as Dame Paddy Drive and Resolute Drive, Sovereign Drive, and around Two Rocks Primary School. Since the removal of access of four-wheel drive vehicles at the Dewars Beach access track, illegal four-wheel drive vehicles are constantly breaking through in other areas, as mentioned above, causing residents to be inconvenienced with antisocial behaviour, noise, bright headlights shining into houses at all times of night, and littering, to name a few inconveniences. We request an audit of the area is undertaken and bigger rocks or boulders or similar deterrents are placed in situ. In addition, we would like to request that mobile CCTV cameras are placed to ensure illegal activity is captured, and an undertaking that fines are issued to stop this illegal activity from impacting us, the residents, further. We understand that this may also need to involve the WA Police and the landowner. The fines will cover the costs of the rocks/boulders, and we would thank you for your consideration. There are 16 signatories, all of whom are residents of the City of Wanneroo.
Thank you, Councillor Figg. Do I have a mover and seconder to accept the petitions? Moved, Councillor Huntley, seconded, Councillor Wright. Councillors, could you please cast your vote to accept the petitions, please? And that was passed unanimously. We now go to item 8, reports, and any declarations of interest by council members, including the nature and extent of which the interest, are to be made at the commencement of the item to which the interest relates. Declarations of interest forms are to be completed and handed to the Chief Executive Officer. Now, I understand I have a mover to bring forward item ASO 50424. Do I have a seconder? I have Councillor Herridge as a seconder, so we will cast our vote to bring that forward to the start of the agenda. And that is passed unanimously. Do I have a mover and seconder to the petition or the recommendation for the petition requesting the removal of street trees in Cordelia Place, Alexander Heights? Moved Councillor Parker, seconded Councillor Herridge. Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly. I do support administration's recommendation. I understand and have heard Mrs. Houlihan's grievances. Unfortunately, I hear these complaints and concerns often. I did ask Mr. Schettelberg the question of how many requests for removal of trees the city receives, and do have his reply. 479 mature trees were requested. The removal was requested from 2021 to present day. 479 mature trees. The city's urban canopy is in crisis. As responsible leaders, difficult decisions have to be made in order to ensure the health and well-being of our residents going forward. Existing mature trees are vital to reaching a target of 30% canopy coverage in the future. I urge all residents to reach out to the city's administration and councillors to enable negative issues being caused by trees be addressed by the city's administration. Working together to find solutions is imperative. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Councillor Herridge, do you want to speak to this item?
Just quickly, Mayor, thank you. Just to second, to bring the item to the floor and to take the time to say thank you to the residents for bringing this to our attention and for our comprehensive report that we've got to discuss tonight.
Do I have any speakers against the recommendation? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. I will speak briefly in opposition to the administration's recommendation. I do acknowledge at the outset that the administration followed the street tree policy as is, and I commend them on that task, but I have reflected after the briefing session last week and after hearing the statements made in the deputation and the questions tonight, and I do not feel comfortable supporting the officer's recommendation. In one of the comments in the report, Mayor, on page 109 of the agenda proper, it says, to date, the city has not received any requests for paving repairs to infrastructure damage caused by the routes. Over the weekend, I tried to find out how easy it would be to access this information of whether or not this service was available for residents. I could not find or locate a reference to it in the street tree policy, which is a public-facing document. I only found a small comment about concrete footpaths and paving on the city's environmental webpage, and it was some way down the page. So it builds upon the questions that I asked the administration last week. If a service is available for residents, noting the damage that can be caused by verge trees to infrastructure, I think we need to be far more proactive in how we provide this information, that we don't wait for the resident to ask the question specifically if something can be done. We note their concerns and their grievances, and we advise them when something can be done ahead of time. Another reason, Mayor, that I am not supporting the recommendation is I believe that the species of tree, the Angophora costata, is not suitable for a residential cul-de-sac. I believe there was a lack of confirmation last week that this species of this scale and size would be considered feasible in such a location if the current street tree policy was being implemented now. I didn't feel that that confirmation gave me the assurance that I needed. I believe a more suitable compromise would be to consider the removal and replacement of perhaps one tree, and that tree would be more the one that is causing impact to the driveway surface. And finally, Mayor, turning to the question of precedent, which I know was raised last week as a question, and in the comments made by administration, I do acknowledge the risk of precedent, but I don't think that policy should always bind discussion. I think it should inform the discussion, and that each request would be considered on its merits. It's not just simply a request that's come through administration, it's something that has been presented as a petition and has come before council. So given those unique circumstances and what has been outlined both in the report and in the deputation, I do not support the retaining of the trees, and I will be voting against the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Do I have a speaker for? Is it for Councillor Miles?
Just a question, Mayor.
Yep.
We've also got, I'm assuming it's an alternate on our desk, is that right? So if the substantive doesn't get up, the alternate will then come into play?
Yes, we do have an alternative. If the has every councillor got a copy of the alternative? Could we give Councillor Nguyen a copy of the alternative? Councillor Deputy Mayor Rowe, we have a question from the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy Mayor, just confirming that you're foreshadowing that alternative, is that correct?
I am foreshadowing an alternative recommendation. As the matter hasn't lapsed, I believe the alternative will only come into play if the substantive is defeated. Is that correct, Mr. CEO?
That is correct.
Is this a question, Councillor Nguyen? Yes, go ahead.
I indicated earlier, I wanted to ask regarding the value of these 3 trees. Is there a way to actually estimate what these 3 trees cost or value at the moment?
It's actually in the report, Councillor Nguyen, but Mr. Singh will confirm it for you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. There is a methodology which is used to assess the tree values. That's outlined. The value of these trees is outlined on page 108.
Is that a question, Councillor C? I wanted to speak again. Okay, well, we haven't had a speaker for yet. Have you got another question? Have you, Councillor Nguyen?
I noticed every time there's a request then to inspect the trees, there is an inspection carried out. How much does it cost each time that we go out to inspect the tree?
Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. That is part of our routine operating maintenance activities. Our staff will receive requests for either tree planting or tree inspections or those kind of requests, and the staff will actually plan and schedule visits to inspect those trees. That's part of routine operating expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Any further questions, Councillor Nguyen?
Could you sort of give a figure in terms of how much it costs to actually look after a tree each year in terms of dollar amount?
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. The trees which we inspect regularly, they are on our, say, list of annual inspections or routine inspections. They are managed differently. I may ask Mr. Chettleburg to explain the process and how much it costs.
Mr. Chettleburg.
Through you, Mayor, it's very difficult to put a dollar figure on how much it costs to maintain a tree, given different varieties and sizes and maturity of trees, depending on the environment that they're in as well. To answer Councillor Nguyen's question in regards to how much the inspection costs, if we go out to our consulting arborist, a quantified tree risk assessment would be looking around the $750 mark to undertake that inspection. We did undertake inspection of these 3 trees in December 2023, where we undertook QTRAs on the trees then.
Thank you, Mr. Chettleburg. Do you have another question, Councillor Nguyen? Okay. Do you have a question, Councillor Berry?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've just heard that we had 479 applications to remove trees. How, if any, how many were removed for damage? Thank you.
Mr. Chettleburg?
Through you, Mayor, I don't have that exact number in front of me, and we'll have to take that question on notice.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Berry.
Follow-up question, do we know if any trees were removed for damage? Thank you.
Mr. Chettleburg.
Through you, Mayor, I can confirm some trees were removed because of damage in line with our street tree policy.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak in favour of the recommendation. I can't add anything more than what Councillor Parker said, which I thought was brilliant. But I also speak in for to allow further councillors to have their say. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Seif wanted to speak, asked to speak against it. So, Councillor Seif, would you like to speak against the item?
Thank you. Yes, I would. I'd like to say that this particular species of tree, my understanding is that it no longer gets planted in the district in this type of area in a cul-de-sac, and that my concern is for safety, safety of individuals as well as for their property. I also hold in high regard the importance of us achieving our 30% canopy coverage. So in that light, I won't be supporting the administration's recommendation, and I am supporting the foreshadowed amendment or alternative.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Thank you. I just have a question through the Mayor. Just wondering if we know exactly how many of this species we currently have planted in our area. Thank you.
Mr Chettleberg, do you have any idea how many we have?
Through you, Mayor, I don't have that information in front of me and we'll have to take that on notice.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker for Councillor Huntley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Trees are a rarity in Wanneroo at the moment in our suburbs. The bushfire attack levy meant that most trees were removed when new developments occurred, and we lost several millions of trees that were just bulldozed down. We're now finding in the drought situation that we're losing even more trees. And now we need trees in our suburbs, trees that are needed to actually go above a rooftop. Now, if we remove one tree, what difference will that make? None at all. The leaves are still going to drop. The other trees are still going to flower. And in fact, they actually will probably do better and bloom even more. These trees, these gums are a native here. They are not from over east, they're actually a native here. They're really important. They feed the birds, they feed the bees, and they keep the bees off the pavements. If we plant lower trees, they're still going to flower, and our bees are going to be an issue when people walk past, especially children and people. When the bees go a little bit dopey during the wintertime, it's going to create problems. The trees, whichever tree you look at, is going to have leaves falling and is going to flower, and the flowers are going to hit the ground. In every other country, people live with it. This is the only place that we don't live with it. The fact that we are so dependent on our rooftops and the way that we use our guttering systems, we need to look at changing that. We need to look at how do we stop leaf litter getting into these gutters, and how do we stop the gutters overflowing back into the house when they're full. As this is an issue that only happens in this country. Every other country's sorted it out. So those are the issues that we need to look at, because we're going to be faced with this every single time. No resident is going to be happy about leaf litter, about where it's going, about in the swimming pool. You know, unfortunately, native trees, the way they grow, the fact that they have to survive in drought conditions means that their flowers are very, very light, they spread, and yes, they do get into the swimming pools. So whichever way you look at it, we've invaded the trees area. We're putting houses in the way, we're putting swimming pools in the way. Trees are there for birds. If you have a tree, you're going to have birds, and unfortunately, it is going to make a mess on the floor. If your car's underneath it, yep, you're going to be cleaning it a bit more. How then are we going to manage the constant barrage of complaints? We can't knock every tree down or sterilise our streets, but that is what it's going to come to. I'm sure actually when this road has more trees planted and they're catching up with the size, the shade then occurs on the road and it cools the road down, and then the leaf litter actually gets caught by other trees, it doesn't land up being such a problem, it will make a huge difference. The fact that there's only 3 trees almost on this whole street is a real issue. So, no, I definitely support the council for its determination to keep these trees, and knocking one tree over, quite frankly, that is not a compromise, it's a poor
Councillor
effort.
Huntley, you've had over 3 minutes. I have a question to ask Mr Chettleberg. Mr Chettleberg, can you clarify if the trees that are mentioned here in this item are native to Western Australia or they're imported from elsewhere in Australia? Just clarify that, because we've had conflicting discussion in that way.
Through you, Mayor, like many trees that we have planted through the city, they are they're not a native of Western Australia, they're a native of New South Wales, they're a native of Australia, but inherently endemic to New South Wales.
Okay, so they're not a Western Australian native tree. Do we have any more questions first? Okay, I'll have to let Councillor Wright speak against, because he had his hand up first. I didn't see your hand up. Do you want to speak against the item?
I just had 2 questions, if that was okay.
Oh, well, that's what I asked, if there were questions. Okay. Questions, Councillor.
Just my first one, just going off from Councillor Seif's comment, can admin confirm if the species has stopped being planted in the City of Wanneroo district? Is my first question.
Mr Chettleberg?
Through you, Mayor, Angophorus are still planted in the city in the right locations. They're not a tree that we're putting into residential verges, similar to reference with Norfolk Island pines that I spoke about at briefing. Depending on the volume of the verge, there is room within a residential verge for such trees, depending on the width of verge and the soil volume itself. But generally, we're not planting them through our streetscapes on residential verges.
Thank you, Mr Chettleberg. Councillor Wright, you have a second question?
Yeah, just one more question from me. Just in regards to when branches fall or if any damage occurs, who is actually liable? Is the council liable if anything drops on vehicles or damages anything? I'm not sure of what our arrangements are in terms of that.
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. As like with any other assets, if residents feel that the incident has been due to alleged council property or council at fault, then they need to lodge a claim, which we refer to LGIS, and they will determine, independent of the city, that particular claim and advise the claimants.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Did you want to speak against the item, Councillor Bedworth? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I don't support this tonight for very simple reasons, and whilst I agree with everything that Councillor Huntley's just said, and many people in this room have actually alluded to, is the fact that we're trying to achieve a 30% coverage. I agree with that. What I believe that Mrs Houlihan referred to last week was the appropriateness of the types of tree in her street. And she did actually alliterate to the fact that she would be more than open to the fact of having replacement appropriate trees put in their place. So the crux of the matter for me is the appropriateness of these trees. Now, these trees are known to randomly throw branches. These trees are known to randomly injure people and cause damage. Aside from all the damage and inconvenience that's been caused to Mrs Houlihan and her neighbours, these trees do pose a risk. So if we just look at it from a perspective of what is the most appropriate type of tree rather than removal of trees, then I think it might clarify things for us all tonight, and that's why I won't be supporting the recommendation from admin. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedworth. Do I have a speaker for the item? If I have no speakers for the item, Councillor Parker, you have the right of reply.
Nothing to add. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. So, councillors, cast your vote, please. Councillor Figg? Okay, the recommendation from administration is lost. 5 supported, which was Councillor Smith, Councillor Figg, Councillor Herridge, Councillor Huntley and Councillor Parker. 10 were against the recommendation, which is myself, Deputy Mayor Rowe, Councillor Wright, Councillor Miles, Councillor Berry, Councillor Coetzee, Councillor Bedworth, Councillor Moore, Councillor Newen and Councillor Seif. So therefore, because the recommendation has been lost, we now go to the alternative. Deputy Mayor Rowe, do you have a seconder for the alternative? Councillor Seif. Okay, Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this alternative? Thank you.
I will, Mayor, and I believe it is now been put on the screen. I made most of my comments around the specific issue as part of speaking against the administration's recommendation, but I may just direct council members to page 111 of the agenda proper, which is the attachment 1 location map of the trees, as I believe that provides some clarification as to why my alternative is worded in the way that it is. And the alternative is to recommend the removal and replacement of tree 1 as identified in the location map attachment 1. The reason that I've done so, and I believe it's a compromise position rather than administration's recommendation, which was to retain all 3, tree 1 is the tree that is located immediately on the verge adjacent to the crossover or the driveway. And at the centre of the deputation's remarks last week was, number 1, the fear of branches falling upon either vehicles or people who are standing in the driveway space. Alternatively, 2, the concern that the roots would upend or make the pavement uneven. That is the reason that I have suggested as part of this alternative that tree 1 is removed and replaced with a suitable species. I did not recommend tree 2 or 3 be replaced because it is my understanding that they are located on the side verge, not near a footpath or any other concrete structure, only near the road surface. I believe the alternative speaks for itself. I have provided 3 dot points in justifying my reasons for putting it forward. The reason is, firstly, the appropriateness of the species is no longer the case for residential cul-de-sac area and so close to the driveway surface in Cordelia Place. And then the other 2 dot points I believe I've already referred to in my earlier remarks. So, Mayor, that is me introducing the alternative recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Councillor Seif, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. I need to support that the tree is not or to reiterate that the tree is not being removed, and that's it. The tree will be replaced, and the new tree hopefully will take hold.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this alternative? If there are no speakers against this alternative, councillors, please cast your vote. Okay, the alternative has been passed. Those against it was Councillor Smith, Councillor Parker, Councillor Huntley and Councillor Hedridge. Those for the alternative was myself, Deputy Mayor Rowe, Councillor Wright, Councillor Miles, Councillor Berry, Councillor Coetzee, Councillor Seif, Councillor Newen, Councillor Moore and Councillor Bedworth and Councillor Figg. So thank you. You have got a bit towards it. You've lost the big one right next to your driveway, Ms Houlihan. So I hope that helps and we can move forward with that. Thank you. Thank Deputy Mayor Rowe for that. Thank you. We now go back to the agenda proper. So we go to planning and sustainability. Approval Services, PSO 10424, preparation of amendment number 216 to the District's Planning Scheme number 2, normalising the zoning of the West Precinct of Drovers Place Precinct and agreed local structure plan number 80. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Moved Councillor Miles, seconded Councillor Wright. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Wright, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And this item is passed unanimously. We now go to PSO 20424, which is preparation of amendment number 205 to District Planning Scheme number 2, part of the normalisation of the East Wanneroo Cell 6, that is Darsh and Madeley Structure Plan number 8 area, and revocation of the Darsh Neighbourhood Centre agreed local structure plan number 51. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Moved Councillor Nguyen, seconded Councillor Miles. Councillor Nguyen, do you want to speak to this item? Councillor Miles, do you want to speak to this item? Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. I declare that item is passed unanimously. We now go to assets. And we go to AS 010424, Traffic Management Scheme, Beachside Parade, Yanship. Do I have a mover and second? Oh, Councillor Vick has to leave the room because he has a proximity interest.
He submitted his paperwork. You want to read that?
Ms Smart's going to read the conflict of interest.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Figg has departed the chamber due to declaring a proximity interest living adjacent to the proposed works. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? I will ask twice. You happy to move it? Do I have a seconder? If I have no seconder, the substantive recommendation lapses, and I understand we have an alternative moved by Councillor Coetzee and seconded by myself. Councillor Coetzee, would you like to speak to the alternative?
Yes, please. Thank you. Councillors, this is a big problem in our area. Beachside Parade is busy. There's a school right next to it. Houses, parks, school children, pedestrians, many cars and cyclists. And we've got a score count of 28. Last year, 11 months ago, the score count was 23. So it jumped with 3 points in 11 months. So it only tells me that it is keep on climbing as well. No, it's not at 60, but the way the score count also works is the amount of cars that goes through, which is 2,250 vehicles per day. So out of that, if you say 95% stays to the speed limit, then it will go around 55 kilometers an hour. But the other 5% is the problem. The other 5% speed, and they are the safety issue. 2 petitions has been given into us about this issue, and it only tells me one thing. The community there is crying out for help. Yes, Mayoral Road is opening up at some stage. We don't know when. And even with Mayoral Road that's opening up, yes, it will take some of the volume away, but again, it's not the volume that's the problem, it's the speeding. Also with the train station that's opening up, if you go north on Beachside Parade, I do not know what's the new road that's coming up there yet. I can't find it on Google Maps yet. But most of the cars also, why will they go to Mayoral Road and then down if they can just go straight to a road and then up? So I can't see that that will take any of the volume away either. I ask my councillors to please support me in this. It's a safety issue. I'm being being called at least a month, every month. I'm being stopped in shopping centres. There's two ladies that lives close to Zamia Rice Park, and I get basically phone calls and emails from them every second week. There is an issue, people. Please help me in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coetzee. As the former councillor for the northern area up there, I repeatedly got complaints about speeding down here. A school is there, the kids are walking across there, people are not respecting the speed limit there, and the people from Zamia Rise repeatedly complained about the speeding down there. Traffic behaviour and behaviour of the drivers has not changed, no matter what we tried to do, what we tried to educate. And so I support this alternative and believe what Councillor Coetzee has brought is a benefit to the community and to that community there, and I recommend and ask my fellow councillors to support it. Do I have any speakers against this alternative? Councillor Seave.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to gain an understanding of the LATMP score, it being 60, and is that applied across the entire district?
Mr Singh.
Sorry, Mayor, can I just clarify the speed limit and the intent of the question? Sorry again, please.
Up at point 4 on the screen, a previous recommendation was to continue to monitor the traffic volumes. Does Main Roads have a standard setting for an area that's with a speed limit of 50? And the reason for my question is I want to know what the rules are and to make sure that they're applied equitably across the whole district.
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The default speed limit in the built-up area is 50, and that's not signposted. The default speed is not signposted unless the speed zoning changes from the higher speed going to built-up areas. So that's a kind of that's controlled by Main Roads. The score mentioned in the recommendation 4 from administration was that we have a policy, council-approved policy, local area traffic management policy, that provide guidance to assess all requests for traffic treatments on city's road network, not the arterial roads, but the local roads, distributed roads. So those roads, the number of factors which contribute to that assessment. Speed is one, traffic volume is one, how many vehicles are going in excess of 85th percentile speed, all those factors are considered, and then we determine a score. If score is 60 plus, then that shows that from council's point of view, there's a infrastructure engineering solution is required, and then it gets into the formal consideration for council during budget process. Anything below 60 is more monitoring and advising WA police to monitor from speeding point of view.
Are these questions or, yes, Councillor Bedworth?
Thank you, Mayor. On page 77 of the agenda, in the second chunk of bullet points, bullet point number 2 refers to the average speed of 50.18 k's an hour. Further down in the third paragraph from the bottom, first paragraph in the comment section, refers to the 85th percentile speed. Now, my question is 50.18 k's an hour the mean speed in the area or the 85th percentile?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have traffic count data with me. I'm trying to locate it in my file. But my understanding is the average is the mean. The 85th percentile would be different, given that that will be a different stat, different analysis.
Do you have another question, Councillor Bedworth?
I suppose it's a little bit speculative, but would that mean, in your opinion, that the 85th percentile is looking at being significantly higher than 50.18?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I have got the information here. The 85th percentile speed is 58.3.
thank you. Any other questions? I'll let Deputy Mayor Rowe go next, then Councillor Wright, then Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. With your indulgence, 2 questions, and I apologise I didn't give any notice because I just thought of them. The first is, through you, Mayor, in Mr Singh's experience, is he aware of many roads that, when tested, actually reach the score of 60? Because in my time on council, I know it's less than others. I actually haven't seen one road reach that level, and my understanding is that part of that is because it's based on the number of reported crash incidents, and not every crash or incident is actually reported through the proper channels. So the first question, Mayor, is can Mr Singh comment on how often a road actually reaches the score of 60?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. The simple answer is yes, we do have roads which have reached a score of 60. Not necessarily they've been reported to council given they were not petitions. We do assessments based on the information we receive and through council members' requests or CRMs from residents. I did circulate information that was maybe 12 months or 24 months ago, providing a list of all projects or the sites which have scored more than 60, and they are part of the long-term capital works program.
Thank you. You have another question, Deputy Mayor?
Yes. The last question, Mayor, through you, is the administration aware of any road traffic treatments that went ahead in a circumstance where the road scored under 60? Now, that could be for a number of reasons. Either in this circumstance, a petition's come before council, or alternatively, it secured election commitment funding, perhaps. Is administration aware of a circumstance where the policy did not act as a binding reason to say no?
Mr Singh.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That has happened with council decisions on consideration of matters. I can't recall a particular street, but one comes to mind is Azalea Street in Alexander Heights. It was a council's consideration on that matter, and a decision was made to design and implement traffic treatments.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Do you have a question, Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. The first question that Councillor Rowe asked was one that I was going to ask, so that's good. Just in regards to the second question, and it's probably one that needs to be taken on notice, but in order to drop the funding score from 60 to 30, how much financial resources would be required of council? And I guess can that information be circulated to the budget workshop?
Mr Singh?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think the information I referred earlier, we will have to rework that information. That was, I think, a year or two old, where we provided the list of all the projects with the scores, but I'm happy to review that one, see if we can make it ready for budget workshop next week. If not, we'll definitely provide that on the hub.
Thank you, Mr Singh. And Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question about the model that's used to get the number. Does it include proximity to schools?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to check the policy, the descriptors on that one. It does take into account the activities at schools and things like that, and the bus routes, few other things, but not sure what Councillor Smith has just mentioned, but I'll have to check the policy.
Councillor Miles, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. My question is, when is the next review of the LAT MP?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have to take that on notice. I just can't recall the due date. The policy was reviewed. The last review, we did make several changes in the policy to consider some of the speed elements in there. And the scores remain the same, but the speed elements were reconsidered. But I'll provide that information to council members.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I suppose with Councillor Coetzee's blessing for her alternative, to add a 6th recommendation to conduct a review of that policy or bring it to a forum if possible.
Councillor Coetzee is in agreement with that, and I would support that as well. So that's a 6th item to bring that policy to a forum for reconsideration. The LATMP
policy, yep.
Policy.
I'm
Do you want to read it?
probably needing a bit of guidance from administration when timing would be permitted, other than chucking around.
By such and such a time.
May.
No, not May.
If I can.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Wright. I might just, we'll have a quick look to see when it's actually scheduled for review, because it may be up and coming, and then I probably might defer to Mr Singh to find out.
Yeah, I've just been advised that it's scheduled for review in June 2024, so it's coming to council imminently, so we don't need to put item 6 on there. There is one question I would like to ask, and I would like it to be confirmed. I understood that the reason the speed limit of 50 kilometres an hour in roads that are not major distributor roads is because if someone is hit by a vehicle at 60 kilometres an hour, that is generally terminal. So therefore, if we've got an average speed volume of 50.18 kilometres an hour around a school, there will be a lot of guys going above that, which is putting our children crossing the school areas and around that areas at risk. Is that correct, Mr Singh?
Yes, Mayor, the research does indicate this, obviously the excessive speeds, and if there is a crash, that's going to cause more damage or injury or fatality. So that's the speed is a factor, major factor in such crashes.
Thank you. Councillor Miles, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up on the CEO response to the review of the LATMP, he suggested, or he did say June of this year. Does that mean it's coming to a forum in June of this year?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Through the Mayor, the policy review date is June. I will defer to Mr Singh, but I would assume if the review date is June, that it will be either be coming to May or June forum for discussion with Council. I'll probably defer to Mr Singh, though.
Mr Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. We are intending, in that case, will be June for forum. At this stage, the information from my team, we discussed at the policy reviews, both of these policy, pathway policy and local area traffic management policy, from our viewpoint of view, they don't require significant changes, but given the discussion tonight, council members may want to contribute to the discussion. So in that case, it will be a June forum and then subsequently to the council.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Any other questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, are there any speakers against the alternative? If there are no speakers against the alternative, councillors, please cast your vote on the alternative recommendation. And the alternative recommendation was passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll just wait for Councillor Figg to come back in. Okay, we now go to item ASO 20424, which is an invitation to register as a Roadwise council. Do I have a mover and seconder? Moved, Councillor, Impartiality, Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to item ASO 20424, invitation to register as a Roadwise council, I disclose that I am a part of the Walga Roadwise Recognised Advisory Committee as a local government representative, and as a consequence there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Moved, Councillor Parker. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Becoming a recognised roadwise council is simply an extension of the city's extensive work in this area and the intent of the strategic community plan. Recognising the hard work and commitment that the city's Roadwise team do is vital and well overdue. Becoming a Roadwise councillor will not be at any cost to the city. The advantages of becoming a Roadwise council, as laid out in the last paragraph on page 82, and I will read them out to highlight their importance, are: the city will demonstrate a commitment to improve road safety outcomes within the community. have access to the Roadwise Council logo for use on the Council promotional communications and infrastructure, gain priority access to Walga's road safety services and products, and be eligible for formal recognition for road safety management and actions. As a councillor who will always support safer roads in our community, I strongly support administration's recommendation and support all efforts made by all like-minded bodies. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
Only briefly, just to acknowledge my agreement with everything Councillor Parker just said, and to reiterate the point on page 84 of the agenda proper, financial implications nil, and also the information that the Director of Assets confirmed to us last week about the financial implications of this decision. In my opinion, that should provide Council with the assurances it needs. It certainly provides me with the assurances that I need to support the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Do I have a speaker against this item? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I will speak against, but also foreshadow an alternative which has been circulated to council members. Are you happy for me?
I'm happy for you to speak against.
Thank you, Mayor. So just in regards to this, I believe that joining as a Roadwise Council will not result in any additional or perceived benefit to the city and can be seen as a distraction to actually achieving positive outcomes in the road safety area. The report mentions to demonstrate the city's commitment through providing evidence. It is a great indicator that this will divert resources away to focusing on reporting to Walga and work on Walga-led projects, not city ones. Other benefits mentioned in the report are more marketing and branding material, which is not needed, and grants permission for staff to work on winning awards and formal recognition, leading to more virtue signalling at the city. The city already has access to a wide range of services and products through Main Roads WA, Road Safety Commission and other related entities around statistics, data, funding and resources to undertake current service unit planning. The City of Wanneroo needs more funding and resource capacity to deliver a large capital works program to deliver better road safety initiatives like upgrading roads, traffic treatments and increasing our resource allocation to lower the threshold of eligible projects within the local area traffic management policy. Current funding levels allow these roads scoring 60 or above to be considered. Most general issues constituents report to council members are around the 30 to 40 level. Supporting becoming a Roadwise Council will see no improvement to our road assets unless Council genuinely increases financial resources to the service unit. The last reason, in regards to the last reason for me speaking against is that becoming a Roadwise Council, in my personal opinion, does not have zero financial implications. There are employee costs, initiatives and campaigns that cost money to work on commitment and providing evidence. And this is demonstrated through the Driver Reviver program, which was initially funded under Walga, and that funding has now been taken away, and that sits with the Roadwise Committee, which effectively endorsing to become a Roadwise Council would continue those sorts of programs under that committee. I'll keep my comments there as I have my alternative, but thank you for the opportunity for letting me speak.
Smith, do you have a question? If you do your question, that'd be good.
Thank you, Mayor. Just through you to administration, if they could comment specifically about whether they believe that this will lead to a negative diversion of resources. Thank you.
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. No, that won't be the case. We will get support from Walga through the services of a road safety auditor.
Do I have a speaker for the item? Is that a question, Councillor Parker? You can ask a question, Councillor.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, would becoming a Roadwise Council in any way be seen as a distraction to actually achieving positive outcomes in the road safety area?
Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. No, that won't be the case.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Do I have a speaker for Councillor Herridge?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe in light of the robust discussion that we've actually just had in the past item, this is quite timely. Walga's Roadwise, through the Roadwise Council initiative, aims to proactively engage, motivate and support local governments in adopting and applying policies and practices that make an effective and sustainable contribution to the achievement of the objectives and targets of WA Road Safety Strategy. In continuing our partnership as a Roadwise Council, through this resolution, we are showing our community and moreover our staff who work in this unit that we are dedicated to the commitment of road safety for all road users. We're simply formalising our partnership with Roadwise that dates back to the city's inception in 1999 with this simple resolution. Registration provides us continued support from the dedicated Walga Roadwise Safety Advisor, as well as access to road safety information and resources. I'm pleased to support this invitation to continue Wanneroo's commitment to road safety.
Thank you, Councillor Herridge. Do I have a speaker against this? Councillor Bedworth, you speaking against it or a question? Yeah, Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in support of everything that Councillor Wright said earlier, I acknowledge and respect everything that's been said thus far and don't entirely disagree with everything. The issue I take with this is the fact that, for me, if we were to show our commitment to road safety rather than getting a new logo to put on our stationery, the previous item is a good example of what we should be doing in order to demonstrate our commitment to road safety, in so much as reviewing the local area traffic management policy and lowering the scores and the thresholds needed to ensure that our commitment to road safety is a little bit more available to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedworth. I have a question. To be a member of the Roadwise Committee, do we have commitments that we have to fulfil for road safety to fulfil and be a member of the Roadwise Committee?
Through you, Mayor, through this invitation, no, but obviously Council does have a number of initiatives which already have been implemented. We have local area traffic management policy to say with. We have a road safety initiative, road safety events which we do to the community to create awareness, and Council has investment through traffic treatments and our road upgrade budgets demonstrating road safety.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker for the item? Question, Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Mayor. My question, I guess, to administration is, if we're not if we don't sign up to Roadwise Council, do we get precluded from any information that we currently are receiving? Mr.
Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I wouldn't expect Volga not to provide us the information. The main issue would be Volga is assigning resources to the council who are signing up to being Roadwise Council. So they will actually cap at certain number of councils signing up to that one. After that, their resources will be allocated toward those councils, so they get a preference and the use of those resources. If we don't sign up, we don't get the access.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Councillor Miles, you have another question?
Thank you. Just on that one, so what resources are Walga going to provide to the City of Wanneroo if we become a Roadwise Council?
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. Volga will be providing the services of a road safety advisor to advise the city when we request them, and also otherwise on the road safety initiatives. For example, we have got implemented several black spot projects. We will get Volga's road safety advisor to review the impact of those black spot treatments on city's road network. That will inform the future decision making and developing new treatments.
Thank you. Do you have another question, Councillor Miles?
Yeah, thank you. So normally the city, I understand, Mayor, would normally put an application in for any black spot funding that it requires. Do we normally do that without Walga's assistance currently, or are we getting Walga's assistance on those applications?
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. Normally we do ourselves those applications, or we hire consultants when we need for specialist projects.
Any other questions on this item? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in comparison to the question that Councillor Miles asked around getting access to a Walga officer, a safety officer, currently does the city receive any advice or can go and seek advice from Main Roads or any other government agency in relation to that information that can be used for black spot programs.
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, main roads do have traffic branch. Obviously, main roads do control whatever road marking or treatment, road markings go on the road or traffic signals. So when we propose traffic treatments, we do consult with main roads so that we do get approval for line markings. It not necessarily we will get advice from main roads on what kind of treatments will be suitable on a particular road. We will come up with a concept, then seek input from main roads on. Ultimately, they have to approve the payment marking plans.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want some clarity. We've had a Roadwise committee for a good many years. Have we always been a Walga Roadwise committee, or is this a new initiative that we're signing up for?
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, City had a Roadwise working group or advisory group. It has changed names over the years. For all those years, Volga do have a representative attend the meeting. They mainly bring the position that Volga takes on various road safety initiatives, all the information coming through the state government on road safety and some of the feedback which is requested by the government agencies, which we are also aware sometimes also Volga brings to the table, and that they just participate on those ones. This signing up to this one does provide us access to the road safety advisor to seek input into the road safety initiatives.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Councillor Huntley, you have another question?
Yeah, can I follow up on that? So before we've had, obviously, a Walga person speak for the Roadwise group. Will that not continue if we don't sign up for this?
Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not fully sure on that one, whether that will continue or not. They may still provide access to that officer to just come and provide advice on what's coming up, but we won't have access to the road safety advisor.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just asking for a point of clarification. Is there any negative impact to the city if we don't join the Roadwise Council from Walga?
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. As I responded to earlier questions, this initiative is limited to a certain number of councils who will sign up to become Roadwise councils. They will allocate their road safety advisor resources to those councils first. If we don't sign up, we won't have access to that.
Okay, do I have a speaker for this item? You have a question, Councillor Parker? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any concerns or disadvantages to the city in becoming a member of the Roadwise Council?
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. No, not that I can think of.
Thank you. Is that a question, Councillor Wright?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Just in regards to that, as there are no financial implications for Roadwise Council, how much is the fee that we currently pay to Walga, and has Walga refused any request from the city for any services that involve seeking feedback from Walga, considering we are the largest local government that pays their fees?
Do we have to take that on notice because it's split into different areas, or do you know what it is at this point in time, Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, there is a fee we pay, City of Wanneroo pays to Volga to being a member, but how much that is on road safety, I don't think that is segregated to that level. It is part of the overall Volga's advocacy position or access to them on road safety initiatives at the moment is part of being a member.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Herridge.
Thanks, Mayor. I wonder if Mr Singh knows of this number. If not, if we can take it on notice. Can you provide us with similar councils that have signed up, or a number of how many have, or where they're at with their sign up? Because I know this is actually just a new program.
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't tell you at this point in time which councils have signed up, but last information I received from the team was, I think 56 or 58 local authorities have signed up.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Do I have any speakers for this item? Yes, Councillor Nguyen, question.
Once you sign up, is there a term that you sign up for? And do you have to renew for after a certain term?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. The letter in white doesn't specify any fixed term on that one, but I'll be happy to clarify and let council members know.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no other questions on this item, do I have a speaker for this item? Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very quickly, I've been on the Roadwise Advisory Group, and it was very limited in what it could do. However, this is a new initiative from Walga. I do feel we should give it a chance. I think after 2 years, if it doesn't work, we can soon change our minds on it. But I do think we should give this initiative a work. If somebody has gone to put themselves out to actually get councils to sign up for this, I do think we should just give it a go in this first term of its life. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker against, or is this another question, Councillor Miles?
Question, thank you, Mayor. In light of what Councillor Huntley was just suggesting, and to what Mr Singh said in his last answer, so once we, so my question is, if we sign up to the Roadwise Council, it is never ending? Is that how administration are putting it, or do we need to put in a clause like Councillor Huntley sort of suggests, that we give it a 2-year run, and then if so, after that we review it again?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I got access to just a letter of invite from Volga at this point in time. That doesn't specify the term or any time limit on that one. So I would imagine that once we sign up, we are a Roadwise Council and have access to those resources.
Councillor Miles, another question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The only thing with regard to that, the letter is very vague, and I must admit we did get it last year, and I find it very strange we're getting it in 2024. But my concern is, obviously, Walga has received a chunk of money from the state government to deliver a program, which we're not sure what it's going to deliver, but then we're also being told that if we don't sign up, we're not going to get access to it, and yet we are members of Walga. So I am concerned that we're sort of signed up to Walga, and we might be restricted on the access to the safety measures that has been suggested within this notice of motion.
Do you have a question?
So one, what is the timeline? And I know this is a motion on here, we haven't discussed in forum, but my question is to administration, what is the amount of money that Walga have received to be able to deliver this service? And when they no longer, or when they've completed their funding, their service will obviously finish. So I think we need to understand what that is as part of this motion.
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any further comments to make in response to that particular question. That's the information I have.
Mr Singh, I've actually got a question. It doesn't seem to be time sensitive, but the letter was sent on the 8th of August, which is 10 months ago, and it's only coming to council now. Is this a time sensitive response, and why has it taken so long? It was sent to our previous CEO. Why has it taken so long to come to council or to be discussed by council?
Thank you, Mayor. I think first thing, it did go to Roadwise Working Group. That happened in 2024. It wasn't, I need to check that one, whether Roadwise Group met after August, and after, looks like Councillor Harridge is confirming that for me. The Roadwise Working Group did not meet after August last year. The meeting held earlier this year. So this matter was presented to Roadwise Working Group first before it came to council. That's why it's taken that long.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any speakers against this item? Councillor Nguyen.
So, on the fence in this one, I was sort of moving towards back and forth, and I was slightly convinced by Councillor Huntley to give it a go for 2 years. What is the cost to us. I mean, it probably doesn't cost us anything, given this is a brand new program, initiative, and there may be funding that's available for us to tap into. On the other hand, it doesn't seem like it's adding anything to what's already available to us as an existing member. While I'm speaking against it, I'm sort of open to my colleagues to, I guess, put forward their view and then vote accordingly. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Are there any councillors that would like to put an amendment to this item? No, I'm thinking of an amendment to put a time limit before it comes back to council so that we review the advantages of the Roadwise committee. So maybe a 2-year time limit, and then it comes back to council for further consideration. So we're part of it for 2 years, and then we see the benefit and we make a further decision. Would that be more unifying for council to get more support to get for supporting this Roadwise membership?
Yep, I'd second
Councillor
that, Mayor.
Huntley. So it looks like maybe I'll be moving it by the looks of things.
Mayor?
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Could I seek just the wording of that proposed amendment and then for it to be printed on the screen prior to...
Of course, absolutely. We're not going to do it without seeing it. So could you help us wordsmith that?
Madam Mayor, I think we can put just at the bottom to be reviewed in 2 years.
So on the bottom, can we put to be reviewed in 2 years?
Mayor, it just might be worth noting that under the standing orders, the item was already moved and seconded, moved Councillor Parker, seconded by myself. So I believe the standard practice would be to check first with the mover.
Are you happy with that amendment, Councillor Parker?
Yes, very happy, thank you.
And sorry, Deputy Mayor Rowe, are you happy with that amendment?
Just to provide some wording,
Yeah, go
Mayor, to add, so recommendation that council supports the city's application to become a roadwise council to a period ending 30th of June 2026.
Councillor Parker, are you happy with that?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, is it become a roadwise councillor for a period ending or is it to a period ending? For a period ending 30th of June 2026? For a period ending 30th of June 2026. That's awesome, thank you.
If that was the wording, I wouldn't be comfortable with it, Mayor, because I think it should say something along the lines of roadwise council for a period subject to review at the end of 30th of June 2026.
Yeah, I would prefer
just,
that, yeah.
For a period subject to review ending 30th, becoming a road council for a period subject to review. Yes, 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 thank you.
So I'm going to read this out. That council supports the city's application to become a roadwise council for a period subject to review ending 30th of June 2026. Is that correct? Councillor Huntley, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I do, Madam Mayor. We're putting ending 30th of June, but I know from the Roadwise Action Group that it's really, really difficult sometimes to arrange those meetings prior to this. Now, they'd have to meet in, say, March and then bring it to council in May if they decided not to do it so that it would terminate in June. So I'm just wondering whether that's going to be beneficial for the group. I think perhaps we should take the date off and just say ending after a 24-month period from the time that the group actually meet. I think we need to be careful because the group might not meet for a couple of months.
It hasn't gone past the Roadwise group. How does the mover and seconder feel about this?
Just to assist, and sorry to cut in on Councillor Parker, council supports the city's application to become a roadwise council subject to a review. So I don't think it needs for a period. So subject to a review before 30th of June 2026. Thank you. I think that Councillor Parker, does that...
Look, I think this is really
Before.
nitpicking, but at the end of the day, I'm happy as long as we can come back in 2 years, give it a fair go. Being a member of the Roadwise committee, I know that if we needed to have something done, we could call a meeting straight away and we could do something about it. So, yeah, happy to support it.
So Councillor Parker's happy with that change. Deputy Mayor Rose happy with that change. Councillor Miles.
Just a question, administrative question for the CEO. Does this mean then that we need to change our advisory group to the Roadwise Council Advisory Group?
Mr CEO.
Thank you. No, I don't really want to take that one on notice because I don't want to prepare a response at a later date. Councillor Miles. I think it's horses for courses. I think as long as the terms of reference support what we're trying to do here, I think it would be sufficient. So I don't have any concerns.
Thank you. Okay, so the recommendation as supported by the mover and seconder is that council supports the city's application to become a Roadwise council subject to review before the 30th of June 2026. Are you happy with that, Councillor Parker and Deputy Mayor Rowe? Do we have any speakers against it? If there are no speakers against it, Councillor Parker, could you please perform or act or say your right of reply? Thank you.
Have nothing further to add, thank you.
Thank you. So therefore, councillors, please cast your vote. Okay, so I declare the recommendation as changed passed with 12 supporting, 3 against. The councillors against are Councillor Bedworth, Councillor Miles and Councillor Wright. We now go on to item ASO 30424, Traffic Management Scheme, Dale Cross Avenue, Madderley. We have a mover, Councillor Herridge. Do we have a seconder for this item? Councillor Parker. Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to this item?
Thanks, Mayor. Just very quickly, sorry, I'm still stuck on the last item. Just a quick thank you to admin for bringing this item back to council for consideration. Dale Cross Avenue has been a subject of a number of petitions since 2010 due to speed and traffic route habits. Returning this item to council after a further recent traffic assessment in early 23, I'm pleased to see that the road users have remained steady in speed and the lap map score remains low and outside the scope for further treatments. I do sympathise with the homeowners along Dale Cross. I know them well. However, the latest score indicates that the current traffic treatments in place are actually working. Both the lap map score and, sorry, I've lost my place. Both the lap map score is the same from the last 2 surveys of 21, and the traffic volume remains steady across the last 3 years. It's with this supportive evidence and traffic management that is already in place. I can't justify a future spend on further treatments ahead of others that qualify higher on the list. So I'm supportive of the recommendation and no further treatments being required.
Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank administration for all of your reports, and I do understand that regular monitoring of this issue will continue on behalf of the local residents, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Do I have a speaker against this item? Councillor Nguyen.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another item that the city could set as an example, consistent with the previous item put forward by my friend Councillor Quitzy, and consistent with our commitment to road safety and being part of Roadwise. I note, and I also echo the sentiments by Councillor Coetzee, that was made earlier, all of what was said earlier can be applied to this very road where while the road does not meet the criteria in terms of the traffic counts, it's not the traffic counts that matters, it's actually the speed. Now, there are many unrecorded incidents that happen along this road. There are many young children living in this area, especially in Madeley. There are various schools in the area. And I have had various late night meetings with the residents along this road where they are concerned for their safety, their children's safety, and have not used any section of their house that sort of poses a risk because of the speeding along that road. I note the report only states there was only one minor property damage recorded in the last 5 years, but from what I've heard from the residents, there have been many more incidents that have not been recorded. I have spoken to the residents. You may recall Mr. Ted that came up at the last meeting, how he has recounted his personal experience. I think at that time he had a traffic accident where he couldn't walk at the moment. He couldn't attend tonight along with other residents, especially Ted. He could not come today because of his personal health, but he wants to reiterate that this is not about just for him, but it's for the children living in this area. And it's been going on since 2010. Looking at what has happened was council did in the past approve the installation of traffic treatment, but along the way, I think one of those residents objected because of the location. That has now changed. I'm told that there is no resident on that along that Dalcross Road that would object to the placement of traffic treatment. So the position has changed. So we can still go ahead with no other objections from any resident on the way. So I urge every councillor to really consider voting against the current recommendation, putting safety as a priority and be proactive, not reactive to what may happen. And we really want to make sure that we put in place traffic treatments to prevent any potential accident that may along the way. So I urge you to consider voting against, and if that was successful, an alternative motion to allow for any of the options that's been outlined in the report to be considered and put this issue to rest after 14 years. Thank you.
Do I have any questions, or do I have a speaker for? Is it a question, Councillor Bedworth?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, as per the Yanchep incident, agenda item, sorry, to Mr. Singh, if I could. Again, I noticed in the report it refers to the mean speed. Have we got the 85th percentile as well? Thank you.
Mr. Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The 85th percentile speed is 54.7.
Do I have a speaker for this item? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. I will speak briefly in favour of the officer's recommendation. I have read the agenda item comprehensively, and just in noting the reasons for my support and how I believe the matter differs from the earlier item on the agenda, this particular road is already subject to some traffic calming measures that, as the data has indicated through the traffic assessment, are effective. and the data, in my opinion, speaks for itself as to why those measures that are already in place, which includes a small roundabout structure, and then further along in the extension of the street on Russell Road, speed cushions, why I believe those are already working effectively as is, and therefore I think the officer's recommendation should be supported. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Rowe, do I have a speaker against this item? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. And following on from the previous item, as a proud Roadwise member council, we need to demonstrate our commitment to road safety. And I think going against not installing anything doesn't improve road safety. And clearly this has received, from my knowledge, 2 petitions to council from concerned community members, and we need to take that into consideration. So if we're actually going to be making effective road safety changes across the city, well then we need to start looking at funding actual things that are going to improve road safety and taking into consideration the 86, I think, percentile speed and those other factors which we haven't properly considered in previous decisions. So I think as a road safety council, we should be looking at supporting these sorts of initiatives, and especially if they're coming from residents, it's very important that we have local residents' backs. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker for this item? A question, Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. And Deputy Mayor Rowe did mention that there were already traffic calming measures on the road. Can you please just clarify that for me?
Mr. Singh.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There is a set of speed cushions on Dalcross Avenue before you exit that road towards Wanneroo Road, and there are further treatment further east on Russell Road.
Thank you. Another question, Councillor Parker.
Were they added to the road because of concerns of the local residents?
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. As there was a lot of detail provided in the report when the petition was considered by Council at 15th of August Council meeting. Obviously, as has been mentioned, it's been started in 2010. Council did make a decision to install traffic treatments, and those set of speed cushions which I just mentioned, they were as a result of that council decision in I think 2014 or 2016, that far back.
Thank you, Mr. Swing. Any other questions on this item? Okay, do I have a speaker for this item? Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to speak for it because at the end of the day, as a Roadwise council, at the end of the day, we cannot keep just putting traffic treatments down. Traffic treatments cost a lot of money. They hinder the emergency services going up and down that road, especially if an ambulance is called. It has to slow considerably. And not only that, if you're pregnant and needing to go to hospital rather urgently, I can tell you it's not a comfortable journey going over those speed bumps. So these traffic calming measures are working. Why on earth are we going to put more? Because I don't think that will lower the numbers. I just think it will make it more dramatic for the residents who actually have to use those roads all the time. And this, you know, it damages their cars. It creates a problem. It makes a huge noise at night with these cars going over these ramps. So no, as a Roadwise council, there is a point where you say no.
Do I have a speaker against this item? If I have no speakers against this item, Councillor Herridge, would you like the right of reply?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Therefore, councillors, cast your vote, please, on this item. And I declare, oh, one's not voted yet by the looks of things. Oh, yes, we've got it now. We've got 15. So I declare the recommendation carried with 4 voting against it. Councillor Nguyen, Councillor Bedworth, Councillor Wright and Councillor Miles voted against the recommendation. All the other councillors supported the recommendation. We now go to item ASO 424, and it's the RFT 23175, construction of Dordak Keepak Library and Youth Innovation Hub, Lansdale. Deputy Mayor Rowe, I understand you have an impartiality interest.
I do, Mayor. With regard to this item ASO 4-04-2024, I disclose my employment for the member for Lansdale. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. However, I declare that I consider this matter on its merits and I will vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. And this item, I have a mover, which is Councillor Herridge, and a seconder, which is myself. Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to this item?
I'd love to, thank you, Mayor. The Southern Suburbs Library has been a future project for more than 20 years. The locals know of its history, and after all the promised years, the lengthy consults, process and design, we finally have ourselves at considering the result of the tender process. We're often compared to our neighbours. City of Swan boasts 7 library facilities and the City of Swan 6. They have a number of community hubs, with 4 of Stirling's co-located with libraries. Our new library and youth hub will be our first co-located library and will provide a 5th library and 2nd dedicated hub to our growing district. Currently, our young residents within the radius of the proposed site have a bus ride ahead of them of an average 45 minutes to our current library facilities of either Girraween or Wanneroo, and around 30 minutes by pedal power. We know from the extensive consult in June 19 and April 20 that there was overwhelming support from families and local primary and high schools alike, and we had one that did a statement for us this evening. Imagine what those school excursions would be like in a state-of-the-art podcast and recording studio. This building will also provide for our seniors within the area, who too haven't the facility of a library to visit and borrow books, or space to convene as a group. The neighbours of Kingsdean Mews and St Helens, College Park in Darch and Kingsway Court in Madeley will have a new, vibrant facility co-located with the youth, providing young and old to come together in an intergenerational way. It's not our community's fault that we've taken too long to get to this point. We must do better in delivering projects within efficient timeframes to ensure the budget we allocate at the start is what we expect it to be when the tender returns. It's now up to us to locate the funding required within the appropriate reserves to ensure that this project's overspend is not passed on to ratepayers at the next budget. In my time on council, we've inherited too many historical intergenerational projects and issues. I hope that within my time that I'm blessed to have in this chair, I leave the next generation with a clear sight ahead for the growth of East Wanneroo and its historicals we all face finished. Dordak Kepup Library and the Youth Innovation Hub will provide for a 23 census population of over 65,000, a significant increase in growth since the project's inception and funding secured in the early 2000s. If we consider pushing this project out again or adapt the design, we are potentially risking not only our community's expectations, but also state funding and further potential price escalations. Our tenderers have already been asked to extension once at a cost. Do we want to risk that and potentially show the construction industry that we are a reputational risk? The project need was highlighted in the 90s with the Cell 6 structure plan and will only grow higher in future years. Our state member has been supportive of this project since the 27 election campaign. It's time to put this project on track where it should be. I thank administration for bringing us tonight this report, and I look forward to hearing the following debate.
Thank you, Councillor Herridge, and I reserve my right to my second speak. So do I have a speaker against this item? A question, Councillor Bedworth?
Thank you, Mayor. At the briefing session, the question was asked if a member of Parliament had been approached in regards to seeking extra funding for this. Have we made any ground on that?
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, there were 2 approaches made, one to the local member and another one through the administrative part of the department. Unfortunately, we've been able to, we haven't been able to secure anything formal. The advice received back is it needs to go through the state budget process.
You have another question, Councillor Bedworth?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In light of that, then, I'd like to move a procedural motion to have this deferred until the next ordinary council meeting until we can get the opportunity to be provided with that information.
Do I have it needs to be
It need to be seconded.
Yeah, it needs to be seconded. Do I have a seconder for this?
Madam Mayor, question?
No, when it's a procedural motion, there's no question or debate. We have to go straight to the vote. So do we have a seconder? Councillor Wright's the seconder. So, councillors, we now go to the vote whether to defer this until later. There's no questions.
I think we need to know if the budget will be between now and the next council meeting. Can we confirm that the budget will be held?
We cannot debate it. There is a procedural motion. There is no discussion. We have to go straight to the vote with a procedural motion according to the standing orders. So, councillors, please cast your vote whether to support this procedural motion. We've lost it. Procedural motion is supported with 5 councillors against the procedural motion. The councillors against the procedural motion were myself, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Herridge, Councillor Parker and Councillor Figg. And I'm going to ask a question because I want it made quite clear and on the record. This defers it to the next council meeting. Is our tender process finish before the next date of the council meeting, Mr Singh, and therefore the tender falls over now?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so does anyone want to do a rescindment motion on the procedural motion? It's done, so we've just lost the library, guys. No, we can't do a rescindment motion on a procedural motion. Can we? Yes, councillors, I just
Mayor, if you require a procedural motion for an adjournment for a period of 5 minutes, I believe that, how long would the CEO recommend?
3 days? No,
Yeah.
probably 10 or so minutes. I'd say.
10 minutes, Mayor, I move a procedural motion for a period of adjournment.
Yes, and
For
seconded.
the purpose of the CEO clarifying
Yes,
that
and
question.
seconded Councillor Herridge. We will vote on the procedural motion to go to a break.
Point of order, Mayor. Sorry, before everyone adjourns, you need to read out the results if the adjournment is carried.
The adjournment is carried. 2 were against, which is Councillor Nguyen and Councillor Miles, and 13 supported it. Councillors, we now go to Community in Place, Community Facilities, item CP010424, Community Sport and Recreation Facilities Fund, CSRFF and Club Nights Lights Program, Outcomes 2024 Grant Rounds. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Miles, seconder Councillor Figg. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Like always, the Community Sport and Recreation Fund is one of those valued funding bodies from the state government, and obviously also the Night Lights program, where we're able to upgrade some of our sporting grounds that have only the 50 lux. Most sporting organisations, now it doesn't matter what you are requesting from a peak body that the minimum lux is 100. And obviously with the support of the state government, we're able to achieve that through some of these funding rounds. So happy to support this on behalf of the council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Figg, do you want to speak to this item?
Just to say that I think it's fantastic that we are applying for these grants, seeing as though they are available, and it is good to see that the rating received by the city is solid for all of these, particularly the Priority 1 projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. Passed unanimously. We now go to Corporate Strategy and Performance, Corporate Planning, Performance and Improvement, CSO 10424, the 2023-24 Quarter 2 Corporate Performance Report. Do I have a mover for this item? Moved Councillor Miles, seconder. Councillor Huntley. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this report? Councillor Huntley, would you like to speak to this report?
Just to say it was a very thorough report, and thank you very much, Administration.
Do I have a mover against this report, a speaker against this report? If there are no speakers against this report, councillors, please cast your vote. And that item is passed unanimously. We now go to Transactional Finance, CSO 20425, Financial Activity Statement for the period ended 29th of February 2024. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Parker. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Miles. Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor. I'm very happy with the report as is.
Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item? Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. Councillor Huntley? And that item is passed unanimously. We now go to item CSO 30424, bin establishment fee not levied. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Berry. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Figg. Councillor Berry, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Figg, would you like to speak to this item?
No, just glad that it's being taken care of now. Thank you.
Do I have a speaker against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to CSO 4424, the warrant of payments for the period to the 29th of February 2024. Do we have a mover for this item? Councillor Berry. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Seif. Councillor Berry, would you like to speak to this item?
Only to say it's very thorough as always, and I think it gives everybody complete transparency over what council's spending its money on, so thank you.
Councillor Seif, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you.
Do I have a speaker against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And it is passed unanimously. We now go to item CS 050424, Old Yanship Surf Club site agreement for lease and ground lease. Do we have a mover for this item? Councillor Coetzee. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Figg? Councillor Figg. Okay, Councillor Coetzee, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you. Not much to say. Just happy for this to go forward, and I'm very sure that the community cannot wait for this.
Councillor Figg.
No, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy with the report and glad it's going ahead.
Do we have a speaker against this item? Yes, Councillor Nguyen.
Just in relation to the rent-free period of 2 years from commencement, if they were to commence trading earlier, would the rent-free period apply to an earlier period? Or regardless of if they were to start trading?
Thank you, Mr Greer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question, clarification on the lease terms. The lease commences based on the practical completion of the development, not on the commencement of trade. So if they achieve practical completion and take, another month or two, several months or less to commence trade, or if they commence trade immediately, the outcome's the same. The rent-free applies from that commencement date.
Thank you, Mr Greer. Do we have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. We have one councillor against it, which is Councillor Nguyen. All the other councillors have supported this item. We now go to Council and Corporate Support, CSO 60424, Joondalup Health Campus Community Board of Advice, appointment of Deputy Delegate. So I hand over to Ms Smart to conduct the election. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And as requested, I will facilitate the nomination process. There are currently 2 nominations that have been received for the one position of Deputy Delegate. These have been received from Mayor Aitken and Councillor Berry. Are there any further nominees for this position? There are none, so I will continue. Endorsement of the selected nominee will be indicated through the use of the electronic voting equipment via live public display through the projector. All council members are requested to use the electronic voting to select yes for their preferred nominee. A selection of no is not required. Please consider which nominee you will endorse. The first nominee is Mayor Aitken. Please indicate your support using the electronic technology. Mayor Aitken has received 7 nominations. The next nominee is Councillor Berry. Please indicate your support for the nominee. And that will change in a moment. Councillor Berry has received 9 nominations. That means there has been a total of 16. However, the difference is not warranted to redo the nominee process, so we will record that as a 7 and a 9 result, 7 and an 8 result, which means that Councillor Berry has received the most endorsements for nominee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So now we go to mover and seconder as Councillor Berry as the Deputy Delegate for the Joondalup Campus Community Board of Advice. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation? Moved, Councillor Wright, seconded, Councillor Seif. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Seif, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you.
Okay, councillors, cast your vote. And that's passed unanimously. We now go to council member attendance at the 2024 National General Assembly. That is item CSO 70424. Do I have a mover and seconder that Council, in accordance with section 6.3 of the Council Member Continuing Professional Development Policy, considers and approves the attendance of Councillors Helen Berry, Marizanne Moore, Bronwyn Smith, Aman Seif and Jordan Wright at the 2024 National General Assembly of Local Government incorporating the Regional Cooperation and Development Forum to be held in Canberra from the 2nd to the 4th of July 2024. Moved Councillor Berry, seconded Councillor Huntley. Councillor Berry, do you want to speak to this item?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. I'd like to support this recommendation. I've seen and heard from other councillors nervous about this item coming to council due to a few questions that have appeared on social media. I think it needs to be recognised that anyone can nominate to be a councillor and no qualifications or experience is required. When the votes are counted, individuals are appointed. This is very different to businesses and jobs, where an advert will list the qualifications, experience and prerequisites needed for applicants to be considered. At Wanneroo, we are lucky to have many new and young councillors who benefit from continuous improvement. Not all councillors have government experience at any level before being elected. This conference, the National General Assembly of Local Government, in my view, is the most important conference to attend. The topic this year is building community trust, which acknowledges the critical importance of trust at all levels of government. All levels of government attend this conference, and the opportunity to gain knowledge and meet others, listen to the speakers and learn is an opportunity that will only benefit Wanneroo. As an executive and board member elsewhere, continuous improvement and the opportunity for individuals to learn and improve should be encouraged. Anyone attending a conference should come away more knowledgeable. Personally, I have not attended a conference before, and I'm looking forward to listening and learning and seeing what other local governments do. The cost to attend maybe could be lower, but over a 4-year term, in any other setting, employees would reasonably expect their employers to ensure they are relevant with skills updated, and I see no difference here. I sincerely hope everyone will support their colleagues to have the opportunity to improve their skills, knowledge and learn. Thank you.
Thank you. And would Councillor Huntley like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This conference is an important conference. It is really an essential conference for new councillors. I actually attended the first year I was in this position, and it certainly shows the difference between the East and West divide, and I think that's so important because everybody here needs to understand what decisions are made over East affect us over here in the West, but are just not relevant in comparison to what they have over there. And it's really, really important that you go over, you see that, but you also get a say as well. So this conference, in my mind, is something that all councillors should attend, especially in their first year. It gives them a really, really good insight into how politics works, and also an ability to actually see Canberra and to actually see what goes on in Parliament itself. So I am for this, and if the whole council wanted to go, I would be happy with that. This is an important conference.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker against this item? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be voting against the recommendation tonight, as I do not support interstate travel to conferences for councillors. I strongly support and attend conferences and professional development opportunities, of which there are many within our region, and fully understand and will always enjoy networking with other West Australian and Metro councillors. However, and this is why I am grateful for this report, this report has come before council this evening. If councillors are going to attend interstate conferences, I strongly believe that councillors and ratepayers have the right, in advance of the individual councillor's attendance, the theme of the conference and the total cost of the conference, as in tonight's report, be transparent. Ironically, the theme of the conference in question is building community trust. Transparency is the most effective way to build community trust, and this report does exactly that. Thank you, Administration, for this report and your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Do I have a speaker for this item? A speaker for this item? Do you have a question, do you, Councillor Ewan, or you want to speak for it?
I want to speak for it.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Ewan.
I do support every councillor having their personal development by attending interstate. I think it's an important trip for every councillor to attend. I don't think limiting the growth simply to state conferences is enough, because as a large council, I think we need to learn from our interstate councillors and what is happening not just within our state, but within Australia and potentially globally in terms of best practice and what's going on in Australia. So personal development, personal growth, I do certainly support that. The current policy allows for 3 councillors to attend a conference, and if there are more than 3, then it goes to a vote. I am not sure why there are special circumstances that support more than 5. Individually, I support everyone who's put their hand up. At the start, I was also interested in putting my hand up, but understanding that I've already been to one and how important it is. And I thought, because there are many people interested, so I thought I'll let this go so that other people would have a chance to go as well, because that shares the burden. And I think if other people who want to go, then they can take their opportunity at the next time, when hopefully there may not be other people who've attended, and give the other opportunity to go. So I am in the middle, where I support everyone who put their hand up, but at the same time, I'm considering the cost benefit that the council get having 5 members attend the same conference. What's the additional value that council get in return? Considering the high costs, weigh up the benefit of personal development from these councillors, I would, at this stage, support every councillor that do come. But having regard to the cost, I might also vote against that as well.
Do I have a speaker against this item? Well, I'm going to speak against it, because I'm actually struggling with this, because we've got 7 of our councillors going to one conference. I like the councillors going and doing conferences around Australia, and I am supportive of that. But those councillors, we need to vary out the conferences we go to so that we can bring back diverse information. If we've got 7 councillors, which is nearly 50% of our council going to one conference, when that could be split up between 3 conferences and we could bring back 3 divergent ideas to grow our council, that would be a far better use of our time doing it. So for that reason alone, and because the councillors haven't been able to work out between them what conferences they want to attend, I can't support all of them wanting to go to the same conference. So I will be voting against this. Do any councillors want to speak for this item? Councillor Wright.
I actually have a question, and it's to Ms Jennings. When I attended the Olga conference in 2022, and I'm not sure if the director recalls, but the City of Stirling had 8 council members that attended the Olga 2022, being a large growth council. Could administration confirm that, please?
Ms Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. I remember that Stirling had some delegates there, but I couldn't tell you how many there were, because I know they also went, some went somewhere else, and I don't know whether they met in Canberra. I really don't know, so we'd have to look up Stirling information, which I'm happy to do, but I'll have to take it on notice.
I have a question, Ms Jennings. Just because another council does something, does that mean it's right for Wanneroo to do the same thing?
Mayor, that's really up to the other council, but as I said, I think they were doing something else as well, so I wouldn't be able to answer that. That's totally up to each council to decide.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers for the item? Councillor Moore? Yes, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Just point of clarification. So next year we have a state and federal election. Federal might be towards the end of this year, state going into March next year. Wouldn't it be more beneficial having 7 councillors advocating on behalf of Wanneroo, divide and conquering, building relationships, given that this is a once in every 12-year occurrence? Just point of clarity on that.
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for the question. Look, there certainly is the opportunity in Canberra, given that we've adopted an advocacy position, or we may adopt an advocacy position tonight, to certainly tee up meetings with various stakeholders to push our case. So certainly the councillors across there can be part of that process.
Any other questions on this item? Councillor Nguyen.
If this item does not get the support tonight, what happens to the councillors that have put their nomination up? What's the process after that?
Mr CEO.
My assumption is, in reading the policy, that the applications to attend just wouldn't be supported.
Do I have any speaker? Councillor Nguyen.
Sorry, can you clarify? Because the policy allows up to 3 councillors to attend. So I would assume that any vacancy after yourself and Deputy Mayor, there will be 1 person that would be able to attend within the policy.
Mr CEO.
There would, and the reason that we haven't been able to delineate is because the others came in as 1 block. So I guess it would require, and I'm looking to Ms Smart here about a new application process.
Councillor Parker.
Just a question, and this is something that I asked last week. I have never before seen an en bloc request. Is that the norm? Normally it would be an individual councillor that requested to attend a conference. Is it en bloc? Can 4 of us all go? Do we all sit around the table and discuss whether we can go, and put it all into 1 email? Or surely it should just be the individual councillor requesting that they themselves go? Just a bit of clarification on that, please.
Ms Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, whilst that's not the usual, we, in fact, Ms Smart rang each person just to double check that they were they were in agreement of putting in a proposal to go. So it wasn't just taken without actually contacting each of the individuals. But yes, it is unusual.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item? Is there anyone who wants to speak for this item? Do you have a question, Councillor Herridge?
Were you up to 4 or against?
I'm up to 4.
I think it might have been against.
So do I have any councillor want to support this and speak for this item? Do you have a question, Councillor Deputy Mayor Rowe?
No, I will speak for and simply say I'll be supporting the recommendation to allow Councillor Herridge to speak against.
Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak against?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've been deliberating this greatly. What I've come down to is the fact that I'm policy and principle driven. I did ask this question last week that Councillor Nguyen just actually alluded to. I find it unfortunate that we can't take and send a third person because there was, in fact, our policy and procedure not actually followed correctly. I'm not sure where that fell down, but to compromise, I asked to see whether we could send that third person to allow for the policy, and we can't because we can't differentiate. So unfortunately for me, I'll be a no vote.
Do I have a speaker for this item? If there are no speakers for this item, Councillor Berry, do you want the right of reply?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillors, cast your vote. It's passed. And the recommendation is supported, 10-5. The councillors that voted against it was myself, Councillor Herridge, Councillor Coetzee, Councillor Parker and Councillor Nguyen. We now go to item from the Chief Executive Office, Advocacy and Economic Development, CEO 10424, the Wanneroo Business Association Sponsorment Agreement 2024, 25, 26, 27. Do I have a mover?
Declaration.
We have two impartialities. Councillor Huntley, what is your impartiality?
Yes, I lost my little card. I would like to declare an impartiality on this item, CEO 10424, Wanneroo Business Association Sponsorship Agreement. I am a member of the Wanneroo Business Association, and as such I disclose my interest in this matter as a member, and as a consequence there may be a perception my impartiality on this matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, you have an impartiality?
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to item CEO 1, I disclose that I have friendships with the Wanneroo Business Association board members, serve on other boards with the WBA President and Treasurer, and a former WBA member. And as a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Okay. With regard to item CEO 10424, I disclose that because I'm a past member of the Wanneroo Business Association, as a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected, and I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Accordingly, Councillor Nguyen has just left the chamber, so could we please note that in the minutes that he has now left the chamber, and we will wait for Councillor Bedworth to come back before we can vote because he's just left the room, so we'll wait for him to come back to vote. And before we do proceed with the meeting any further.
Mayor, I understand the need to wait for the vote, but would you normally seek the mover and the seconder to at least facilitate some of the early discussion? I believe he's coming back now.
We could do that, but he needs to be part of the discussion and the mover and the seconder. And as according to item CEO 10424, I will move this item. Do I have a seconder for this item? Councillor Seif.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, can I ask a question? Are we not waiting for Councillor Nguyen, or has he left the meeting?
He's left the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
He's left the meeting. That's why I've asked for the minutes to be noted that he has left the meeting at this time. Okay, so the Wanneroo Business Association sponsor agreement. The Wanneroo Business Association has grown from strength to strength, and it's developed from not just a networking organisation, but it supports our local businesses, supports small businesses, and is an active, vital part of our community and our business growth. So, councillors, this sponsorship is vital for us as part of our economic development team and the economic development within the City of Wanneroo, that we support the Wanneroo Business Association and link in with them. So, councillors, I do ask that you support this sponsorship agreement. And Councillor Seif, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, I would. I'd just like to say that they do, as you said, they do support a lot of small business and a lot of entrepreneurs as well. They do a lot of programs for individuals, for startups as well. And they're very organised in terms of sourcing funding from all sorts of places, including Services Australia. And when times get tough and other business associations were closing down, the Wanneroo Business Association was the fastest growing business association in the northern suburbs.
Thank you, Councillor Seif. Do I have a speaker against this item? Oh, you've got a question, Councillor Figg? Yes, ask a question, Councillor.
I note in a lot of agreements with our tenders and contracts, we obviously work in a rise and fall amount based on the CPI per year. Is that something we ever do with funding agreements that last 3 years with associations, if I may ask?
Mr Marmion will come down and answer that question.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. Previously, with the Wanneroo Business Association, we haven't included any CPI, and that was the intention for this agreement as well. So it's 3 years, no CPI increases.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. And that item is passed unanimously. We now go to item CEO 2424, Advocacy Priority Projects 2025, and I will move this item and the Deputy Mayor will second this item. Our advocacy projects are vital for us to advocate with state and federal government with the upcoming elections. To have these clearly and succinctly put and unified goals when we go and meet with the local members and the local members of Parliament and the opposition with the upcoming elections, this is for maximum benefit for our community as targeted strategies that will advantage our community, whether it be infrastructure, wellness, or community projects. So, councillors, it is vital that you support this advocacy priority project so that we have the tools in our toolbox to be able to approach our local members. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this?
Just to add, Mayor, that it is a mechanism in place to authorise yourself, Council, the CEO, to be able to, on these priority items, seek funding, to meet with stakeholders, to make representations, to fight for the issues that have been clearly identified, a need has been established, and an expectation has been set that there will be action and delivery in this space. I do credit not only Mr Marmion, but also noting that this sort of document requires so much collaboration across the organisation that each directorate, each service unit has to be part of an assessment process to put forward the ideas, to evaluate them, ultimately to the stage that Mr Marmion is able to present the final version to Council for us to consider. And the last comment I make, Mayor, is that while this document is called an advocacy priorities or an advocacy plan, it goes without saying, and this Council knows, that it also means advocacy and delivery. That once you advocate, once you secure funding, once you raise expectations, once you consult, there is an expectation to deliver ultimately for the reputation of the organisation and for the residents and the ratepayers that we serve. So I wholeheartedly endorse this document and I ask councillors to remember the significance of it going forward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Do I have a speaker against it? Do you have a question, Councillor Coetzee?
Thank you. I just quickly want to find out the wording on page 295 regarding the sustainability. It says resource recovery precinct and undergrounding power city-wide. Then on page 299, under the 2025 top advocacy's priorities, it says exactly the same thing. The only thing that confuses me there was state government to fund undergrounding of power supplied in agreed key suburbs. I just want to make sure that this will come to a forum for discussion for the selection of the suburbs needing the underground power.
Mr Marmion.
Thank you for the question through you, Mayor. I don't see any reason why it can't go to a forum, but if it's going to be citywide, it will be pretty much all suburbs that don't currently have underground power, and I suppose we'll need to consult with Western Power in terms of what their program might be in terms of their priority. So we'd want to just align our thinking there. So it could come to a forum. I guess timing is everything though, so it'd need to be pretty quick.
And Mr Singh would like to speak to that question.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members may recall there was a council decision on southern suburb, I think Giravin and Mayoral area, Kandula, Giravin area, 2 or 3 suburbs. And there was a request from council for us to contact Western Power and bring a report to council forum. So we are working on that report at the moment, but that is more targeted toward those suburbs, but we are still seeking information from Western Power across the whole city. So there will be a report coming to forum next month.
Councillor Coetzee, do you have a question?
Yes, please. I do know about that motion on notice about Giraween and so on. Also, a follow-up CRM was sent through for the Yanchep 2 Rocks areas that have a power problem as well.
Mr Singh?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That's what I outlined. We have started to seek information from Western Power for the whole city. How far we can get that from them on the outages within the city, the frequency and the reasons. We are still collecting that information for the rest of the city. That'll be part of the report.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Do you have a question, Councillor Miles?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to follow on from that question, from my understanding from an advocacy point of view, as you stated, if we're going to go to the candidates of either party, of all 3 parties or 4 parties, we're just putting a view that we would like to see our older suburbs and those suburbs that do not have underground power, we'd like them to fund that to get it going. We're not sort of saying that we want them to add it to their existing process. We actually want them to give us funding to actually be able to get that put in place. That's my take on it, not the fact that we want to go in the queue. Would you not agree that that's the idea of advocating for it?
Mr Marmion.
Yes, I would agree with that. However, pragmatically, there's the actual delivery. We'll need to talk to Western Power as well, and I think Mr Singh might want to add a comment on that one.
Mr Singh?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My understanding is Western Power will undertake those works and those when they approve those programs. City's position will be to advocate and having cities localities included in the program.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, are there any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to Governance and Legal, CE 03-0424, Annual Review of the 3-Year Strategic Internal Audit Plan. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Deputy Mayor Rowe, do I have a seconder? Councillor Seif. Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
Only to say, Mayor, that this item, as with most or all of the items that come forward from the Audit and Risk Committee, particularly for either newer council members or our residents and ratepayers wondering how transparent the city is and how robust the auditing and reporting system is at the city, these reports truly demonstrate our commitment to that process. So I endorse the report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Councillor Seif, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you.
Do I have a speaker against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. And it is passed unanimously. We now go to item CEO 4.424, review of the council member, committee member and candidate code of conduct and complaint handling policy. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Moved Councillor Wright, seconded Councillor Figg. Councillor Wright, do you want to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Figg, do you want to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Do I have a speaker against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. And it is passed unanimously. We now go to motions on notice, item 9. We firstly go to MNO 10424 by Councillor Bedworth. Councillor Bedworth, do you have a seconder for your motion?
It's Councillor Berry.
Okay, Councillor Bedworth, would you like to speak to your motion on notice?
Thank you, Mayor. Only in so much as to say that most of the detail and my feeling on it is contained in the report. It's my belief that given the increase in public transport systems that we're having within the city in the coming months and years, and in an effort to stimulate some small business opportunities and provide a service to people who hitherto may well not be able to carry all the equipment to the beach, I think a feasibility study in this regard to see if it's something that the city would be looking towards is something that I feel would be quite valuable and hope it's supported.
Thank you, Councillor Bedworth. Councillor Berry, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I like this idea wholeheartedly to promote tourism and provide business opportunities. We actually have 32 kilometres of pristine coastline that many visit. To be able to hire a sunbed, umbrella or other beach equipment would be brilliant. Personally, I'd like to see us go further and expand it to offer camel, donkey and horse rides, but do understand we'd first need to approve an animal beach to do this. But this is a great step in the right direction to ensure our beaches offer a variety to many. Thank you.
Do I have a speaker against this motion on notice? Councillor Wright, do you have are you speaking against it or have you got a question?
I have a question, if that's okay, Mayor.
Okay.
Just for administration, maybe to also include in the report, is there possibility of exploring some revenue sources for that as well to the city?
Mr Clem?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think in the investigation we need to look at the management land tenure arrangements and see what possibilities exist in that regard, so we can include that in the investigation.
Will that need to be included in the recommendation in the motion on notice?
No, Mayor, I don't believe so.
Okay. Do you have a question, Councillor Figg?
Is there any chance, and look, this is something I've not discussed with certain groups, but having surf lifesaving clubs possibly provide that service? I don't know if they have the capabilities, but asking them seems to be an idea because it would be a revenue source for them as well. So I just thought I'd put that in there.
Mr Clem?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it would be prudent in this investigation to have discussions with the surf clubs along those beaches, so we can certainly ask that question in that process.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions? Do I have any speakers against? If there are no speakers against, councillors, cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to MNO 20422, Councillor Miles' motion on notice, road safety audit. Do you have a seconder for your motion on notice, Councillor Miles?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Moore.
Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to your item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The report is quite short and articulate. The reason this has come about is most of our roads up in Mariginup and Jandabup are now getting to a point where they're getting quite congested because people are using those roads as short runs because they don't want to come up Wanneroo Road. Franklin Lenore Road is obviously getting to a point where the city's probably going to have to do some widening on those roads. I know we're doing some extending, but there's also a lot of people still need to access those roads, driving out onto those roads. Trucks are coming along. Some of the speeds have been asked by main roads in the past to be to reviewed and looked at, and a few years ago that was always denied. But what we also are looking at is if administration can actually do an actual bit of a safety audit on some of those roads. So if I take, for instance, Townsend Road has 3 90-degree bends. There are B doubles using that road, and when they use and go around any one of those bends, they take the whole road, and in some cases, some people have actually run off the road because a truck does not slow down and he just swings all the way around. So this is obviously one of those safety issues. It's about doing the audit and then obviously coming back to council with some future planning on it, funding if need be, and work it through. It is something that probably the 4 ward councillors in Central Ward, Huntley, myself and obviously Councillor Wright, we often get asked about these roads. Why can't we deal with anything? We point out that it's obviously speed, lines and line marking and signage has to be approved by Main Roads. They then ring Main Roads and Main Roads says, no, it's a local council problem. Go and get your local council to do something, and it becomes an endless loop. And I would like to see a sort of like short circuit it. Let's get some studies done. Let's understand what the issues are, and then obviously try and rectify them where we can within our own budgets, and obviously work with the new developers that are coming online. Because I looked at some traffic data recently. Franklin and Orr Road is almost as much traffic on a daily basis as Wanneroo Road out the front. So I think we've got a serious problem today. It's only going to get worse if we don't try and tackle it. So, councillors, I do ask for your support to ask administration to do this work and bring it back to us at a later time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Moore, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Couldn't have said it better myself, Councillor Miles. Just want to say thank you for bringing this motion. In the past weeks, I have had multiple residents contact me with concerns for their safety who are actually living on these roads where it is a 70-kilometre zone that goes into an 80 and then back into a 70, and they live along that. And I also couldn't. It's just come at the most timely matter given the last items on our agenda tonight. I think that we as a city are showing that we are dedicated to road safety, and I ask for the support of our council. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other councillors want to move something? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an amendment which has been seconded by Councillor Huntley. In regards to the motion on notice, just to add Ross Road and Sydney Road. Are you happy for me?
Okay, would the
Can we
mover
add
and
Cape Horn
seconder...
as well?
And Cape Horn.
You want to include Cape Horn Road as well?
Yeah, unfortunately, Franklin and Lenore tip into Cape Horn, and that's creating immense problems with the big trucks.
Okay, Councillor Miles and Councillor Moore, are you happy to accept the amendment in your substantive to include Ross Road, Sydney Road and Cape Horn Road in the road traffic safety issues that you're requesting in your motion on notice?
I am happy to accept it, but I would also like the 2 ward councillors to have a say as well, Mayor.
Okay, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you to Councillor Miles and Councillor Moore for bringing this motion to council. And from Councillor Huntley and I and the 4 of us as the Central Ward councillors get very frequent inquiries in regards to all these roads and the safety concerns, and especially with the East Wanneroo area that's now increasing. There are a lot of troubles with road traffic statistics, the speed dropping up and down, and particularly that transition between urban and rural areas seems to be of a major concern. So I thank Councillor Miles and Councillor Moore for bringing this to council, and I think they are very timely to be able to understand our rural communities better. And also benefit road safety. And I noticed that the original motion as well, the report will come back to council for obviously additional comment, and hopefully something good comes of that in terms of a traffic management plan or other mechanisms that we can implement as a local government. And just in regards to the amendment, Cape Horn Street and Ross Road and Sydney Road are also frequent roads that have increased traffic, and I was contacted from residents that obviously saw the published agenda and through sharing through Facebook that there were quite a few concerns on these missing roads. So it's just very timely and important that we also include, as there are a lot of streets in this.
Okay, so can we just get the motion on notice clarified? Notes the traffic safety issues being experienced by the road users within Badgerup Road, Hawkins Road, Townsend Road, Roosett Road, Lenore Road, Franklet Road, Trishett Road, Elliott Road, Ben Muni Road, Jambanis Road, Ross Road, Sydney Road and Cape Horn Street.
So just in front of Ross Road, you can put Cape Horn and then just another comma to make it easier.
And take the end off the end of it. Oh, maybe and requests. No, that stays in there.
Thank you, Mayor.
So the mover and seconder of the substantive are happy with that. Councillor Huntley, would you like to speak to the item?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Just very quickly, obviously, Lenore and Franklin, that now is a right-hand hard degree bend. It's a 90-degree bend straight into Cape Horn Street. Only vehicles who branch off down to Trickey Road, and that's actually, people are turning right down Trickey Road to actually reach Sydney Road faster than actually, Townsend Road rather than go through Trickey Road. So it's all becoming very congested down there. The big lorries, the big trucks that come out of the quarries are creating some issues in their speed, just their sheer demeanour on those very, very narrow roads. But they're also, we're seeing with Lenore and Franklin tipping into Cape Horn, we're seeing a real issue for Garden Park Drive, which is the only connection between Cape Horn and Dundebar Road at the moment. But really, if we solve the problems in Franklin Road, we should actually give some relief on that Garden Park Drive as well. So thank you. I hope you'll support this.
Do I have any speakers against this motion on notice? Yes, Councillor Herridge, you have a question?
Thanks, Mayor. It's not just the Central Ward, unfortunately. I've had quite a number. I actually have a close family friend that lives on one of these streets as well and know exactly how bad it is because she's been taken out by a truck herself. My question is, have we, administration-wise, actually been in touch with, or recently, with the businesses that they're at the end of these streets? And can we somehow possibly add in maybe a third request to actually consult the residents of some of these streets as well to see what they think?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we need to understand the issues first and have some kind of strategy in place before we consult with them. And if we're going to include consultation as a recommendation 3, then that probably will extend out the time period for us to bring the information back to council members.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, any speakers against? If there are no speakers against, councillors, cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to MN 030424. It's my motion on notice about the enforcement of rules on the use of e-ridables, and it'll be seconded by Deputy Mayor Rowe. We unfortunately had a death on the corner of Dundebar Road and Wanneroo Road recently of a young girl who was hit by a car, and she was riding an e-ridable. But we hear repeated complaints about the e-ridables, the youth riding them, people witnessing them riding them without helmets, people witnessing 2 people on an e-ridable. I downloaded the penalties and the e-ridable laws, and the e-ridables laws said 1 person per device. It says helmets required. The age requirement is 16 plus. They need to have a bell or verbal warning. How many pedestrians have not heard e-ridable come up behind them? Lights and reflectors required. The speed on footpaths is supposed to be 10 kilometres per hour, and the speed on bike paths and share paths and local roads is no more than 25 kilometres an hour, and they're not allowed to travel on roads that have a speed limit greater than 50 kilometres an hour. So obviously these things are not happening, they're not being enforced. And if you have a look at the fines at the moment, to exceed the speed limit of 25 kilometres an hour on a carriageway, bicycle path or shared path, it's $100. Of 10 kilometres is a footpath is $100. But how are the police going to be able to enforce this? This is considered to be minor stuff, but at the moment we are having our pedestrians injured, we are having road users, and that with these e-ridables coming in on the road that they're avoiding. They're not wearing equipment that makes them easy to be seen on the road. Normally they're in black. And we have children underage driving them, so that when the police go to prosecute, they can tell them to stop it, they go around the corner and they keep doing the same thing. My motion on notice is that Council requests the City advocates to the State Government for stricter enforcement of rules around the use of e-ridable devices and continued media campaigns to raise awareness of them. And we need stricter controls similar to hooning laws, that vehicles that are hooned are confiscated. And this is part of the stricter laws, a broader any way possible to keep our community safe. Remembering, of course, we have already advocated for this 2 years ago. We have been to Walga, and on the 20th of July 2022, the then acting Chief Executive Officer, Harminder Singh, wrote to Peter Warrenonskal, the Director General of Department of Transport, about this. But just because we've done something about it 2 years ago with a little girl that died last week or a couple of weeks ago, it's still happening. So it doesn't mean we should give up on advocacy, but that we should persevere so that we finally get heard and we can finally get safety and an amenable, safe neighbourhood for our residents and for our children and for our motorists to be able to drive safely on the roads without these happening. So, councillors, I ask that you support this motion on notice, that we continue to progress and actively advocate for stricter enforcement of rules for e-ridable devices within our community. And this is a metropolitan area-wide concern, and I'm sure, and I know other councils are doing the same thing. And if we all get together and we band together and go through WALGA and we persevere, we will be able to enforce safety changes for our community. Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you please speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. There is very little that I can add, because I believe you summarised the issue and the action that is required incredibly well. Only to commend you on moving the motion. I was visited this morning by a gentleman who was in a near incident driving with an e-scooter that almost connected to his vehicle. It was late at night. There was not appropriate lighting on the actual e-scooter. So one of the examples that you've referred to there, it is occurring on a daily basis. It is impacting both the people who are injured physically in collisions, but also the drivers of vehicles who in many circumstances can be following the rules. And as a result of an incident or an altercation like that, the emotional effect that it would have upon them, upon people who witness the incident, either directly in person or alternatively through social media or something else, it should never be understated. And we know at this moment that the manufacturing of e-scooters is not appropriately regulated, that the code says one thing, but the manufacturing of the e-scooter permits it to be able to exceed those speed limits. We know that contradiction exists. What is within our power is to collect the information that has been presented to us, both anecdotally and through what we've seen, and to continue to advocate in this space, because it is something that is having both a material impact upon the lives of people in our community. So I agree with you, Mayor, that doing things once or simply through one body is insufficient. It ultimately requires an approach of perseverance, continued advocacy, and I believe that's exactly what your motion does. So I commend it and I ask councillors to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Coetzee, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm definitely in support of this motion. I do have a question, however. On page 374, it says there at the ordinary council meeting held in June, where the council made the following decision: request that state government to consider an early review of the Road Traffic Act regulations relevant to the use of e-ridables to address the issues highlighted by the recent incidents involving e-ridables. Then on page 375, it says the above decision was actioned with a copy of the letter from the acting CEO, which is attachment 1. On the letter, the date at the top says 18 April 2024. Was this letter sent at 18 April 2024? And if so, why almost 2 years later?
Okay, I asked that very question. And what happened was when they printed the copy for the attachment, the program auto-dated it to the date it was printed. So we followed through and checked, and the letter sent by the acting chief executive officer at the time, Harminder Singh, and we've gone back through the history, was actually sent on the 20th of July 2022. So we followed that through because that was a question myself. Yes, Councillor Coetzee.
Thank you. Then a follow-up on a question on that. What was the response of that letter?
Mr. Singh.
Madam Mayor, I've tried to search for the response. I haven't been able to locate the response on that one. So, but I'll still see if I can find, did we receive any response?
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Miles?
Yeah, just to follow up to that, we quite often ask as a council for administration or even yourself, Mayor, to write off to appropriate agencies, ministers and that, but we never really get any replies, like in this case. Is there something that can be done from administration? So whether it comes through on the wrap or whether it comes through as a note in here, but can we maybe get a management happening that we actually get told what happens to those letters?
Mr. Singh?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Ordinarily, as part of the process, when we do write to the members of parliament or state government, we do include copies of those letters in the wrap, and also all the responses received are circulated through wrap as well.
Thank you. Councillor Miles?
Oh, sorry. And the other question I have is, we've all said tonight that we get more and more of these sort of traffic issues, whether they be speeding, whether they be people wanting plateaus and all the rest of it. Should we also initiate some sort of process where they all go off to our Roadwise advisory group to maybe be able to actively push them through and then come back to council with a recommendation to approve the works or whatever? I just feel at the moment we have an advisory group. It's a good group, but it's not really able to return anything back to council for recommendations unless something specific comes up. But we quite often have petitions like this one as well, whether it should go, like this one I feel should go also as part of your recommendation. I feel it should go to Roadwise for them to establish a media marketing campaign to start doing something locally from ourselves. So I think we should be doing both. Your first recommendation, but also we should also be doing some marketing and media and activate that through Roadwise.
I hear what you're saying, but I question how often does the Roadwise Committee meet, and do they meet often enough to actively make that happen in a timely fashion? That's my question to go with that as well. Can it be increased or what happens? Mr. CEO?
Sorry, through the Mayor, I think that was, I will defer off to Mr. Singh or Ms Jennings in terms of the actual process itself, but I think that was the point that Councillor Miles was trying to make is maybe we give more responsibility to this particular group so they do have the opportunity to meet more regularly. I'm assuming that's what you're saying. Yep.
Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. I think that's a matter of when we review the terms of reference, that can be considered through that one. Council members will have input through that. that how often they should meet, what the objectives and responsibilities could be. In most of the cases, the groups can only make recommendations, not make decisions back to council.
So just, if anything was to go media-wise, they would only be able to bring a recommendation for media and it would still have to be passed by council before it happened. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor, but we, depending upon what it is, there are a number of things which we do through operating budgets and through our operating regular activities, day-to-day activities, through our traffic team, and we do consult with Roadwise working group to ensure that we have captured their views as well.
Thank you. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Mayor. Question. Do we know if e-rideable education is undertaken at senior schools, colleges, etc.?
Mr Singh.
No, Madam Mayor, I'm not aware of that.
So follow up.
Councillor Berry.
As Councillor Miles is obviously alluding to education, would it be an idea in your recommendation to ask state government to provide resources that we can distribute to our libraries and youth centres and maybe get it into the schools as well?
I think Councillor Singh, Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to be the director. Thank you. When the council made a decision last time, we did write to Volga, and I do clearly recall 2 years ago there was some active campaigning, education campaign through radio and TV ads through Volga and on state government both. So there has been some done, but obviously when we write to the state government now, we'll be requesting further enforcement and ongoing education and ongoing campaigns to reinforce the message.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Question, Councillor Huntley.
Yes, Madam Mayor. For the public interest, how would state government effectively enforce the rules? Would it be like more police or more CCTV cameras and maybe a team to review footage? How? We're asking state government for stricter enforcement of the rules, but can you give some clarification on what that would look like?
Mr Singh, do you want to speak to it or do you want me to speak to it?
I can attempt.
Okay, go ahead,
Thank
Mr
you.
Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I think in the enforcement the rules are there. The enforcement agency is WA Police. So they will, given what's happening on the road, they will have to enforce. It's up to the state government then to basically whether there's a priority for them or not. That is for the state government and WA Police.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any speakers against? If there are no speakers against, councillors, cast your vote. And it's passed unanimously. We now go to item 10, urgent business. There is none. We now go to item 11, confidential, and we will now move into a confidential session. Could I have a mover and seconder for confidential? Councillor Berry, do I have a seconder for confidential? Councillor Seif. Councillors, could you please cast your vote to go into confidential? And that has been passed unanimously. Thank you. because not every councillor voted. 4 didn't vote. Okay, thank you for opening the doors. And from our confidential time, the item, where are we? CRO 10424, Amendment to the City of Wanneroo Local Cat Law 2023, resolves to undertake the Joint Standing Committee on delegated legislation that within 6 months correct the topographical reference areas in Part 1, Clause 1.41, Clauses 2.2c, 4.11 and items 1 and 2 in Schedule 2 of the City of Wanneroo Cats Local Law 2023 in brackets Local Law. B, not to enforce the local law to the contrary before it is amended in accordance with undertaking 1. C, ensure all consequential amendments arising from the undertaking will be made. And D, where the local law is made publicly available by the City, whether in hard copy or electronic form, ensure that it is accompanied by a copy of the undertakings. And 2, notes that the CAT Amendment Local Law 2024 will be presented to the 21st of May 2024 Ordinary Council meeting. This was supported unanimously. Then we go to item CRO 2422, acquisition of land in Wangara as road reserve, and that was passed unanimously. CRO 30424, acquisition of land for road reserve, that was passed unanimously. CRO 424, acquisition of land for open space, was passed unanimously. And CRO 5424, there we go, accepts the preferred quotation as per the recommendation by administration and notes that the provision of the CEO performance review services will be a collaborative process to be finalised between the CEO, council and consultant to ensure the best outcomes for the city. So after that, the date of item 12, the date of the next meeting. The next council members briefing session has been scheduled for 6 p.m. on Tuesday 21st of May 2024 to be held at the Council Chambers, Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. Item 13, closure. I declare the meeting closed at 9:53 p.m. Thank you.